Hello! How are we all doing? It's that agonising time, isn't it, Mike? Can anybody hear me or not? Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Lots going on in the chat. Happy birthday to Debbie. Yes, that is for today. And we have Renee.
I can hear you now.
Excellent. We have Jonathan. Hello, Jonathan. We have Carol. Full house tonight. Hello, Kim. Hello, Deb. And who else? We've got Pandemonium. Yes, hello, Annie. And we have Carol. Hello, Carol. And we've got Graham. Graham is in the house. I thought of Graham today because I was looking at an iMac. You know, is it 24-inch these days? And I know that Graham's got one of those, so I was admiring it. And who else have we got? I think we're all there. Oh, we have Deborah. Hello, Deborah. Is that a full? That's a full complement of Debs, I do believe. And Peter. Hello, Peter. Do you know if Peter and Annie are here, then the dogs are too, aren't they?
True.
Yeah, Lola's not, is she? She's asleep. Yeah, she's less than thrilled when we're live, bless her. Never mind. So hopefully everyone can see what they're supposed to be seeing and hear what they're supposed to be hearing, and I can whip over there. And hopefully things will move. So fingers crossed. Yay, things are moving. Excellent. So what do we have? We have the week at MacBites headquarters. We have visualising audio in video. Don't ask. This is brand new feature this. Then we're going to be creating video in MediaPlace. Lots of chat about MediaPlace this week. I have presentation related freebies. And then Mike is going to be playing with traffic lights, aren't you?
I am.
I'm going to leave that alone. And then I am going to be customising app icons. Now, that doesn't look Obsidian-ish, but it is. But it's also for anything else. So I left the word Obsidian out. But it was from questions about Obsidian and the fact that they rolled out an icon generator, which is fabulous because it does SVG icons. But there were no instructions as to how to make them work. So I know how to make them work and I'll be sharing it. I've missed somebody here, haven't I? Just a second. Oh, where did it go? Where did it go? It moved. Barnsong, hello. Hello to you. There you go. Nearly missed somebody there. I think I need better glasses than these. But never mind, let's move on. So we're broadcasting in 1080p. Make sure you are receiving in 1080p. YouTube was very good to me this week. It only put one video at 360. But it was my own fault. Because this video was about the Watergate scandal from 1974. So it was lucky it wasn't in black and white. In fact, parts of it were in black and white, so I let YouTube off. If you don't know where to go to fix that, there is a cog in the lower right-hand corner. It is near the like button. So, you know, two birds, one stone, as they say. Hello, Mrs. Yarnold. Oh, hang on. Well, what's Graham saying? Fancies an M3 iMac. Bit too soon. Ooh, but you kept the other one for ages. You kept it going. It was so impressive. So I'm expecting you not to need one till at least 2030. Is that not your plan? Let me know. Right, so let's go back to last Saturday. Oh, such high hopes last weekend, wasn't there, Mike?
It was.
Because it was a day of sport. Wall-to-wall sport. We opted for the wireless again, but obviously the iPlayer wireless. But that wasn't the highlight of our day. I expected it to be wall-to-wall sport, nothing else. But who has seen, let me know this, the film One of Our Dinosaurs is Missing? It was from 1975, and I swear it was on every school holiday when I was a child. And we were reminded of it on Saturday afternoon. Only it wasn't a dinosaur that was missing. No, it was a robot. Now, if you've been with us any length of time, you'll know that we're in M33, which is a test area for delivery robots. This little fella was lost. Now, it was funny because Mike spotted him and he seemed to be taking a bit of a rest. And then I spotted him and he seemed to be taking a bit of a rest. So how did we know he was lost? Well, we kept a very close eye on him. And since he'd been sat there for 2 hours, not a beep, not a squeak, we figured he was lost. As it headed to the 3-hour mark, I suggested that Mike ring the co-op and tell them where he was. They weren't impressed with its demise, I'll tell you. But we thought they'll be round. They'll sort him out. Sometime later, and I'm talking hours, he was still there. Lola decided she'd go and have a look because the flag is usually flashing and the flag was not flashing. So she gave him the once-over, a bit like a doctor at A&E, wasn't it, if you think about it? And after close inspection, Lola declared it was beyond help and carried on with her walk, not in the slightest bit interested. While declaring that he delivers, he was lying. He did not move. Much later, and I do mean much later, it was getting dark. This isn't actually the view, this is the CCTV view. He was still sitting there as it was getting dark. I am happy to report they did collect him before we headed off to bed. But by then, the poor little guy had been stuck there for over 9 hours. We pondered and were hoping his original delivery wasn't ice cream, or anything else equally perishable. So has anybody told me that they used to see that film? I swear it was on every holiday.
No, nobody's mentioned it.
Oh, no, you've got to see it. You've got to see it. Lola was using your tech to bring it down. Do you know she could have been? She could have been. But while that saga was rumbling on, it was the Premier League season. Yes, we were playing Tottenham at Tottenham. Well, when I say we were playing...
Yes, let's not go there. Tony's just walked in.
No, let's not talk about that, should we not? No, it was very bad, wasn't it, Mike?
Bad words were said.
Do you notice we even gave them a goal as well? Which was very kind, but totally unnecessary. So yes, Mike wasn't in the best frame of mind. Which took us on to Sunday. Considering the time I usually go to bed, 11 o'clock was very early for me, alarmingly early for me on a Sunday. But it isn't every day that your country is playing in a World Cup final. So I was up and I was about. It was the Women's World Cup final. Quite a lot of people had sent them good luck messages. Luckily, in the midst of this copious advice for the ladies from everyone, from the King, who I doubt has ever seen a football match in his life, to pundits who couldn't win an argument, came great self-awareness from the manager of the England men's team. Which, that is the best comment I have ever heard from him. He's quite right. They've done nothing. So he just wished them well. We made the decision to watch it on BBC Sport. Now, this is fast becoming an inexplicable reason as to why we were watching it on BBC, because there's never a match without issue. They seem to be the new ITV, don't they, Mike? You may recall the time-lapse commentary of the last match. This time, Spanish commentary. They treated us to Spanish commentary. I kid you not. After waiting 57 years for a World Cup final, they overlay the English commentary with Spanish. Couldn't hear a thing. Their best advice, go watch it on the iPlayer instead. We didn't bother. Doubtless the commentary there would have been in Polish or Serbo-Croat. So we left it alone and stuck with what we had. It was agonising, wasn't it, Mike? It was one of those matches. We only just lost, but we lost. But to be honest, they were the better team on the day, weren't they? I have to begrudgingly admit that. And anyway, at least our girls got off without being snogged by the head of whatever FA.
This is true.
Yeah, I think they got away with that quite lightly, considering. So it didn't end well unless you were supporting Spain, of course. So, after that agony, we headed off and did our usual Sunday coding session. I think I mentioned last week, didn't I, that 5 weeks was a gross underestimate. Yes, I'm now talking in terms of months, if not years. But it'll come to fruition in the end. So, Monday rocked round, and with it, new toys. Pixelmator Pro brought out an update. I'm quite interested in this. If you look carefully at that, they've got AI banding removal included. So normally when you've got images and there's like a gradient on it, you can sometimes see banding on it. It gets rid of it, apparently. And at the moment, there is a back-to-school offer with over 30% off Pixelmator Pro. I was quite grumpy with Pixelmator Pro, though, and I remember this. This was because Graham wanted it, and I wanted it, and I had trouble buying it because it needed a really up-to-date machine, and that was Graham's issue. But I managed to acquire it through circuitous routes by installing updates on half a dozen machines, and I managed to buy it, and it said it was on offer, and it was going to be £97, I think, and then it never reached those dizzying heights, and it's actually cheaper now than when I bought it originally, and they told me that was the cheapest it would ever be. They told porky pies, as we say here, but never mind. So there's 30% off if you don't have it. Now, with it being Monday, it was my Plan Your Week session, so headed off into that. Went really well this week. The more often you do it, the easier it is, apparently. Who knew? Like a weekly review. Mike, however, while I was planning my week, headed off into a 3-hour extravaganza, didn't you? Have you forgotten?
I did, yeah.
You did. It was Monday, you did. Yes, an epic session.
Carol wants to know what you were coding.
Oh, well, it started off quite simple. It was a little WordPress update and it ended up very complicated. So we've got something built on the top of WordPress now that we're working with. So all will be revealed when it's finished. Should we ever reach those dizzying heights? No, it will be, won't it, Mike?
It will.
It will. Yes, it will. So after the 3-hour session, it was time to enter the studio again. I think we're up to 5 weeks, aren't we?
Something
Yeah,
like
I'm
that.
expecting a round of applause here from Jonathan. Come on. Yes. Which meant overnight on Monday that Tuesday, I was still in the studio on Tuesday, I'll be honest. Didn't we have another piece to do?
We did.
We did. It was sort of done in episodes, honestly. But it was all neatly packaged together in Hindenburg. And so was born the tortuous tangle of the Tech Challenge tags. That's not easy to say either. Which was MacBites 170. I was incensed with that, wasn't I? Which led me nicely on to Manchester United again. Grumpy much with them. Who's heard the show? Let me know. Oh, Peter Williamson says, grr, WordPress. Yes, it's got a mind of its own. And I got a message today that one of the services we pay through the nose for synchronization was down. So the best advice was don't try syncing anything at the moment. And I thought, can you imagine if this rumbles on to Sunday? Oh, I'll be very grumpy.
Mrs. Yarnold's been enjoying the podcast.
Excellent, Mrs. Yarnold. Excellent. Right, so that took us to Wednesday. Wednesday was a very important day, wasn't it, Renee? Happy birthday to Renee. For Wednesday. You never told us what you got. Hope you got something nice. Or maybe multiple something nices. Let us know. Right. Oh, yes, we heard from Jammy as well. So I announced the podcast and Jammy came in. Jammy's quite excited with the podcast, isn't he? Not excited enough not to have people around on a Friday night. We need to talk to him about that. I know he's not with us live, but he will be tomorrow morning. So hello, future Jammy. And said it feels like Christmas. That many shows. Well, there you go. It's Christmas. Does that mean we can take a break now till the new year? I don't think that's what he meant, did it?
No.
Oh, Peter WordPress has decided he doesn't exist. No, I've not come across that one yet, but it's only a matter of time, isn't it? Now, if you are a PC user, Corel have announced integrated AI in PaintShop Pro 2023. If I was a PC user, I would still be using PaintShop Pro. I loved PaintShop Pro just for the organiser for my screen caps.
File browser.
Is it file browser? Whatever it's called.
File
the
browser
organiser thing that's inside it. Love it. This is a much cheaper way to access AI than Creative Cloud subscription. But as I say, only if you use a PC. Oh, hang on. What's Renee got here? Thank you. You got, what's that?
Yeezy shoes.
Oh, and an iPhone 15 Pro Max as soon as it's available. Oh, what if they call it something else? Does it still count? Do you still get it? I do hope so. So if you're a PC user, that's probably worth a look at, given the price. Now, what an embarrassment this dog is. Just look at Lady Lola begging for treats in the local park. I would say from some random, but that lady's one of what we call the pellet people, isn't she? Who has a bag full of treats with her. Now, you'd think we didn't feed her. Just look at that tongue, the amazing things she can do with that tongue when she's begging. That is very much like the picture I took of Maya in the car when he was having his McDonald's milkshake. And yes, she did get a little treat. The other dog looked so nonplussed by comparison. But Lola was thrilled. That was Wednesday. So when Mike got back, he was into another 3-hour session, weren't you? You've been a busy boy this week.
I've been a busy boy.
Yeah, he was tired by the end of it, I'll tell you. Which was just as well that was Wednesday and not Thursday. Because Thursday, you know that we have been outwitting Tesco. Well, you get an email, don't you, about lunchtime?
1 o'clock on the dot, usually.
Oh, right. So that's 8 hours before they arrive, isn't it? But they know at that point whether everything is on the way or not. So everything was on the way. Mike was delirious until they arrived. With a message that I personally didn't understand. Something's missing, but we don't know what. How do you know something's missing if you don't know what?
I presume there was one less tray than there should have been.
Well, you're pretty much guessing, aren't you?
Yeah.
So, sometimes there are no words for the incompetence on display, and this was one of those occasions. Mike and the delivery guy spent 20 minutes checking every item to work out what was missing. Now I know what was missing. I can predict next time, if you like. There was no water. Just look at the size of those bottles and hold that thought. One of the other things that was missing was bottles of juice, wasn't it? And pineapple juice. And so as soon as Mike reported back what was missing, he said, yeah, that's all the heavy stuff they couldn't be bothered putting on the van. Seriously? So, are we saving much time by shopping online, Mike? I think Mike needs reminding of Asda sending us flowers at Easter. Just saying.
Yes.
They brought all the stuff and they sent us flowers, Mike. Might be time to look at Asda next week.
I was thinking that, actually. Yeah.
There you go, you see. Punishment for Tesco's.
But Asda don't have the lovely Wendy.
They don't, but Wendy didn't come, because if Wendy had come, we should have had the stuff with her.
And she'd have asked about Sweet Pea.
Exactly. Right. Which took us to Friday. Happy birthday, Debbie. Already said, but today is the day. Happy birthday. And it was my weekly review day. It was so funny. The first step on our weekly review, it's a collective mastermind weekly review. And the first step is inbox 0, which is usually more of an idea than anything that's likely to happen. But since Tuesday, it's just been delete. So I looked at my inbox. That we got 15 minutes for this. I looked at my inbox and I had 2 emails. So I did what I needed to do with them, which was pretty much download something, and I was done. And I went back in after 90 seconds and said inbox 0. That was the first one there. Do you know what I did with the other 13 minutes, Mike?
No.
I wrote up a piece for MacBites next week. Talk about ahead of myself. Now, much highly requested since Mike's birthday is Mike's growing mug collection. So his birthday mugs have settled in nicely. And
I thought you said mud then.
Mugs. Oh, dear God. Deaf as a post. I was wondering about the brick at the back. Is that just for height?
Yeah.
Do you often wander around with a brick in the house? Just asking.
No,
You just happen to have a brick in the house?
the brick was originally on one of the lower shelves to try and keep it steady. But now it's been moved up to the top shelf to have the mugs on.
So you really now need a mug display case.
Yeah.
Good grief.
It's on his birthday on Sunday.
Hold your horses.
Oh.
I'm organised. Anyway, we have to announce the most important thing of the week. Our late summer holiday starts here, and our holidays are never without incident. So you can consider yourself warned. Now, while I can edit a PowerPoint on the fly, I did not. So never mind this business of it's on his birthday on Sunday. I am fast forwarding to Sunday to wish Annie a happy birthday. It was all organised. So happy birthday. I hope you have a wonderful day. I wasn't going to leave that till next week, because although lockdown birthdays last a week and we're still in lockdown even if nobody else is, it would be quite a long time after, wouldn't it? So happy birthday. Do have a fabulous, fabulous day. Right. So I've actually got here 27th, so I'm presuming that Annie's 27. That works, doesn't it? I know I'd rather be 27 than the age I am, but never mind. Let's move on. So this is something brand new. It's something that we've actually thought about doing for a while, because if you've got audio but there's no video with it, so like MacBites, it would be nice to be able to put that somewhere as a video, because it actually costs a heck of a lot more to host audio than video. Video you can put on YouTube, you can put it on your website. Audio's trickier. So if you could turn audio into video, that would be grand. But obviously you'd need to see something. So if you could visualise audio, that would be perfect. Now, there were processes that you could go through to do this. They were time consuming and very, very expensive. This is just included in an app that I use every day. I'm reckoning Mike does too, and I know that Carol has. I don't know about the rest of you. It depends if you bought it when it was an offer. So let's go have a look at it. Now, the other thing I need to mention is the app that I'm talking about has had an update, had 2 updates this week. It is Camtasia. Now, I'm using Camtasia right now to record the screen, which is why the record button is a stop button at the top. So here's hoping that nothing crashes and burns. If it does, there will be a slight hiatus while I reset things. We'll find out. So what I'm going to do with this is put some audio on the timeline. So the audio that I've got, I have a range of assets here. Right, this is MacBites. Now, although it's playing, I'm hoping you're not hearing it because otherwise you won't be hearing me. So fingers crossed that that's happening. But this was the last episode of MacBites. And as you can see, it has show art. And this is an MP3, and the MP3 can have that embedded in it. If we move on, you can see that that is the image all the way through it. Now, if it was an M4A can have a thumbnail track, and that has different thumbnails on it. But again, there's still not much actually happening. It's just an image. The other stuff that I've got in here is our show art, which is the global show art, not for a particular show. And then I have 2 copies of the episode art. So that was the show art for that individual episode. Right, so that's what I've got. One as a PNG and one as a PDF. I would, of course, have a vector one. But Camtasia doesn't read anything but PDF in terms of vectors. So that's why I have a PDF there. So the first thing I need to do is grab the MP3 and just put that on the track at the bottom. And I am trying to move that. There we go. So that's bang up at this side. And I can also there get you to see the entire time track on there. So it's just over 50 minutes. So this is the actual episode in the media bin. If we go through it, you will see that despite there being an image in there, it doesn't show on the canvas. So the bit in the middle here, that is the canvas, that's got the visualization in it. And at the moment, there is nothing there. But we have the audio, and we can see that there is a waveform on the audio track. So I can, of course, bring imagery in. So I can bring one of these in and drag and drop it. But short of me creating slide after slide, image after image, and manually moving it, there's nothing doing there in terms of things that are moving. So let's get rid of that. We'll come back to that shortly. But what you now have in the library comes with selections in here, in folders of elements that you can use in video. So we've got buttons, subscribe buttons, desktop stuff, you name it, we've got stuff in here. Now, all of these came with it. So at the top, you can see it says Camtasia 2023 library. In here, I do have my own default library that's got other things in it. And you can download libraries, you can create libraries, you can get libraries from colleagues. But we're working with what comes with it for free. So if you wanted to animate the cursor or something like that, you've got all of these options in here. The new one is audio visualizers. So if we open that, we have 3 different audio visualizers. We've got audio bars, an audio ring, and an audio wave. So I think a wave is probably going to be self-evident to most people here. Right. If I drag that into it, you can see you get this line in the middle. Now, you can put this wherever you like and you can scale it. So if you just want this in the corner, you could do that. Or you could make it the size of the canvas and have it twanging to the canvas like that. So obviously at the moment, it just looks like a line in the middle, which it is. But this is on its own separate track. So what we could do is name these audio. And this one, come back, there we go. That one would be wave. And you'll see it stays on there. And as I'm moving through it, so I'm scrubbing through it, it is moving and representing the sound. Obviously, once I'm past it, it disappears. So what I would do with that is make it the length of the audio. And now, whether I scrub through it or I play, that is what you would see if you exported this to a video, which means you've got moving images with your audio. I was hoping that that would look more like the MacBites Waves, but it doesn't really. But what you can do with it over here, this is the audio wave here. So it's showing you the scale of it, the opacity of it, if you've got it rotated, where it is. But the dynamic properties are the more important in here. It's blue because the colour is set to blue in here. So what would make sense for MacBites is to drag this down to the orange and make it more orangey, and then hit play with it. So it's starting to look a bit better. You can also in here change the samples. So do you want it taller, narrower, how it looks? You can change the thickness of it and get it much thicker. Not that that's looking great, to be honest. You can feather it. So it's all different effects. You can change the height of it, which would make sense if you wanted a bigger video. So it's covering more of the area. And you can change the width of it there. So that's how much of it you're seeing. So if you take it down, it moves much more. That is only one thing that you can do with it. What I would probably do with that is put it in a certain area and then add artwork to it. But all of these three options, the audio wave, the bars and the ring, all work in a similar way, just give you a different effect. So let's get rid of the wave, simple as just deleting it off there, and add the bars to it. So drag that down. You can see the outline here, but because my playhead is outside of this, you're not actually seeing the bars. But if I drag it back through, then you will. So let's stretch that so it fits the whole of the timeline here. Why are you not moving? Come on. All right, we'll move you the other way and then push you back. Right, and fill the space with that. Now, at the moment I've got that in the middle, it does actually make more sense at the bottom. Now, this one, instead of just having one colour, you can specify a range of colours. So it starts off in there with the green. So I just move it down to the orange, and you can see, based on the hue shift, what colours you get. If I change that, you can see you get a whole different range of colours. I actually think that works really well if I set that back, which was 0.2. So you've got the green at one end and you've got the orange in the middle. The actual colours are being determined by this though. You can also change the count. So you can see you're getting far more bars with this. That would make more sense if I press play and you could see the bars. So let's up the bar count. As you can see, you get a totally different effect with it. You can also change the width of the bars. So you can make them much skinnier, so they've got a gap between them, or much wider. So let's take that down a bit and put a bit of a gap. So you can create some very different effects. And all of these can be saved as, every time I do this, I want it to look like that. Right, you've got the bar height as well. So if you want to try and fill more of the video area, just increase the bar height. Then you can change the roundness of it. So they are actually going much chunkier and rounder as you take it up there like that. So I quite like that one. I did quite like that one. If at the beginning here, the front part, the bars were touching the top, you can see at this end, in that area there, they're not really going into that area much. So that might be a good place to put the poster or something like that. So let's take the bar height down a bit. So we've got that area up there. And I'm just going to add in the MacBites show art, which is there. And I'll add in the episode art. No, I won't do that one. I will do the PDF like that. So if I make this one much smaller and I move that one over there, make that one a little bit bigger, this one can sit on top of that one. Which obviously it isn't in the stacking order because what we've got here is track 3 is the one with the show art, but we can just drag that up, that'll automatically get renamed. This I would then pull out to fill the whole of the area. So that's the duration of the show. Same with this one. And then I'd put an effect on it, because I think it would look much better if it was lifted off the background. So that one needs to be moved over there a bit, I think, like that. But also in here, I have some visual effects. And one of the visual effects I've got is a border. So these are elements on the timeline. And what I would need to do is drag that onto it, and you can see it says visual effect added. And when you open that, there is your border applying to the whole thing. We go up here, here's the border at the bottom. And although it's there, it could probably do with being a little bit thicker so you can actually see it. So let's put a border of 10 on it. Same with this one. So grab the border and drag that down onto the show art. And that one might need to be more than 10 because it's bigger. No, that looks fine. And then play it. And yes, the bars will sometimes touch it, but most of the time not. Plus the fact the audio bars are on the wave track, which is actually track 2. So even if with these two, well, I'll group them together and that way I can move them around together. Even if I put them down here, the bars will go behind them because the bars are on a lower track. So the audio is on the lowest track, then the bars, and then the group of artwork on the top. So even if it was on top of it, it would look fine. The bars would go behind it. So that is a very good way to visualize the show. That way we could actually put a video up, which unbelievably is easier than putting audio up. Okay, so that's number 2. There is a third way to do this. So we will get rid of the bars. We will get we'll get rid of that. Right, so we're now left with just the audio again. So back to the library and into the audio visualizers. And the third one you've got is an audio ring. Now this would have taken an age if you tried doing it before this was added. But what you've got this time is a ring in the middle. Now, you can see the size of it, so you can stretch that out and actually fill it so it's that size. But the other thing you can do, if you want it bigger than that, you can hold the Option key down and pull that in, and hold the Option key still there and bring that in. Bring this down, and what you're doing is giving yourself more scope to make this bigger. You're cropping out the blank bits. And then you could put that wherever you wanted. So I'd probably put it over here and then put something about the show on the right hand side. This works exactly the same way as the others. In terms of it has its dynamic properties, you can set the colour range and everything else. But you could take this one a little bit further. So first of all, the colour is the default green. So let's take that down to orange. And that way we'll get some yellow and amber through to red via orange. We press play, you can see the effect of that. And you have the hue shift, you have the count, you have the bar width, you can change the height so the bars can be much longer. You can change the roundness, the radius, all the things you could change before, you can still change in this one. And that's looking fairly decent. But what I wanted to do with this, I looked at it and I thought, oh, that is crying out for something. Let me do it. So I'm going to add back in the show art, which is the MacBites. Wouldn't it be good if we could constrain that to the middle part of there, like an avatar? Not that way, you can't. But what we'll do is we will make this the length of the show. And somebody who knows this should be shouting out by now. What should I do with this? I'm going to need a shape, and we have shapes in the annotations in here. Now there's various groupings of them, but I'm just looking for something that, give or take, is circular. So that one there. Right, let's drag that on. Now it's not the right size, but at least it's a circle. So I just scale this until I'm happy with the scale. And what I'm looking for here is that that sits neatly in there. Now, it might need to be a little bit smaller, so let's make it a little bit smaller. I am holding the Shift key down to make sure it's still circular, and that's not looking bad. So what I'm going to do with it, I'm going to make sure that that is white so we can see it. Now, I've then got this here. So that is going to need to be a bit smaller as well, isn't it? It doesn't need to rotate though. Right, let's put that in there. So I can see that it needs to be at least as wide as that and needs to be put in position. So have I got the square? No, I haven't. Let's get that. Circle the right length first, like that. And then make sure I've selected the show art and make sure that I am happy with where it's sitting, which is about there. But that doesn't look great, does it? So what I need to do is constrain the show art to the shape. And I do that with another visual effect. And there's quite a few visual effects. A lot were added in the last update. But in here we have what's called a media mat. So if I drag that down to there, you can see what happens straight away. This, whatever is on track 4 that I have applied the media mat to, and you can see that green line is indicating the media mat, it will constrain what's below it. So this is being constrained, that looks great, but we've got the M missing. So this one down here needs to be fiddled with somewhat. So hopefully with that one, I can make it a bit smaller. Let's make sure it's going to be a bit smaller like that. Move it down so we can see the whole of the MacBites. Make sure that the waves look okay. So possibly a little bit wider and then centering it a bit. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now, it wouldn't be looking perfect, but for the fact that we've got this media mat involved here, which is constraining it. But now, if we make sure we've got nothing selected and play it, you've got the show art in the middle and you've got the audio visualization round the side. The last thing that one would need is to have the show art added over here and maybe some information about the show like that. And all I have to do to make sure that that goes for the whole 50 minutes is stretch that out and you are good to go. That will work with any audio. It doesn't have to be a podcast like we've got. It could be any audio whatsoever. I think that is a perfect way that you could turn an audio podcast into a, not exactly a video podcast, but a podcast with video that you could then upload to a video hosting service rather than an audio hosting service. So, do we have any questions on that, or is it all football chat, Mike?
We don't have any questions.
No.
Okay, well, that is what you can do with it. So, what I'm going to attempt to do, without issue, is not save that. Oh, look, it's still running in the background, which is grand. So, that should still be recording. So, fingers crossed that that's what actually happens. Okay, let's head back into here. Oh, we have follow-ups to MediaPlace. So MediaPlace was the app that we talked about last week. Debbie and Carol and Evie got in touch with me and were saying, can we have a look at this? In fact, Debbie was saying, just buy it. So I did, and so did a lot of other people. In terms of all that, most of us had Eagle. But that didn't mean that we're not in the market for something new, did it? So we did. So what's happened this week in MediaPlace is the lifetime deal did give way to an annual subscription. So it did go to £119 a year, or was it dollars? Dollars a year. Jammy had trouble importing. So the first thing was it about 5.5 gig and took a long time. That got dealt with. But if you've been following along in Slack, Debbie didn't have any trouble at all, nor did I. Cold comfort to Jammy, I know. So more testing this week and I'll report back. But I did do an import about an hour before the show. And it was absolutely fine. It flew. Now, I will admit, you can't really, no matter what machine you've got, if it's not the same as this one, don't do a comparison because I've no idea how long it would take on Mike's. And you know that this machine, if I could have put any more spec in this machine, I would have done. So this is the fastest machine that Apple make. So I can't really do a comparison on that basis, but I will put it on another machine and I will test it. Okay, what have we got on here? Renee is still leaning towards Eagle. Well, to be honest, Renee, that's where all my stuff is. So what I'm doing with MediaPlace is the features that it has that Eagle doesn't have, then I will put the images in there. And the images just flew in for me. Literally, I put 100 in and it took like a second. So I'm not seeing it taking that long to take things in, but I'm only taking in images that I want to work with today. I'm not using it as a global library that everything is in. So that is one thing to be thinking about. If you have problems, you're not alone. If you're not having problems, you're not alone. I've no idea what the common factor is. Hopefully they will let us know at some point. Now, the other thing is Jammy then contacted support. Now, when you are contacting technical support, poor Jammy faced the vagaries of technical support. So I thought I'd share with you what I do when I have a technical support issue in the hope that it helps some of you in the future. Now, the first thing I'll say is, I hate contacting support, don't I, Mike? If I can hand off... Oh, yeah. Well, look, that when you're putting in your technical support, I'm an expert profile that you like knitting, I'm like, really? This was a WordPress one. Yes, Peter. No, that's not the kind of thing you put in there. But if I can hand this off to Mike, I will. And it's because far too many times I've faced the have you turned it off and on again question, like I'm an idiot. So I developed a template, and that way I don't get grumpy while I'm doing it. So first thing to share. This is what my technical support request looks like. So I've got it in Obsidian, it doesn't matter. You can see from where it is in Obsidian that it's a template. So if I have a support request to put in, I create a new page and it starts on that there. So you can see on that it is titled support request. That's because it's a template. I would then have support request as a level 1 heading, but this would get changed to what it actually was. And it would include the application or hardware device, and it would include the date. Then in here, I've got environment, and at the moment I have 2 that I'm particularly working with. So this is the new Mac Studio. So it tells them what version of the OS I'm on. It tells them what the device is, what the processor, the memory, and the startup disk is. If you're thinking that the startup disk is irrelevant, once InDesign wasn't working, not on my machine, but InDesign wasn't working properly. It wouldn't do a mail merge, data merge. And this was a client, and I said, you're going to need to contact Adobe because it's working on mine. It was working on his own laptop. It just wasn't working on the work machine. And I said, put all of this information in. And when he put in the name of the startup disk, it wasn't Macintosh HD. There was a character in there, and that was what the problem was. So ever since then, I've made sure that all of that information is in there. So I also have the information for the 2020 iMac, because I still have some apps on there. You'll notice that this hasn't been updated, but this one has. So I do keep this template up to date. Then in the overview, that's the kind of chatty thing of, this is the problem. But I then give them complete details, which is, here's how to reproduce it. This is what I expected to happen. This is what actually happened. And if there's any relevant screenshots or a demo file, then I would attach it. And I would attach it to this support request in here. And then the backwards and forwards that then goes on gets added to this. So there's like a whole chain of what's been said and what's been tried and stuff. Now, the reason that I mention this is that's the way I do it. And I try and force you to do it, don't I? But Mike's a bit more, what shall we say, random? Oh, he's not saying anything now. That means yes. But what Jammy did was, and I hate that, Jammy. I hate that. Jammy decided to go try and find the support, and it was at the bottom of the website, clicks all the links, finally gets through, and it's a fill in the boxes. No, don't do that. Don't do that, because as Jammy found, it could well, I'll tell you what happened. Moved on to the next bit, it disappeared, and then when he tried to go back, everything he typed had disappeared. It could have timed out. And that's my problem with support stuff like that. So recently, I have an open issue with Scrivener, Literature and Latte, about Scrivener. And I never type stuff in their system. They wanted me to open a ticket in their support system, and I'm looking at the website with that's not happening. Give me an email address. Not happening. So I could fill this in, copy it, paste it into an email, and off it went. I did find an email And that was how I did it. And then every reply after that is in an email. So it can't really time out. But I still put it in something like that. So if you are approaching support for anything from anybody, not just MediaPlace, think about doing something like that where you type up the request away from any systems at all. Because you can guarantee 9 times out of 10 it will disappear before you actually manage to submit it. And that will just make you grumpy. And by the time you've typed it up again, you may miss a step, and that could have been the critical step that would have solved the thing. So that's the way that I do it, and that's why. Okay, let's get that out of the way and back in here. So I said last week I did a very brief overview of MediaPlace, not in the way that I did Eagle. How many weeks did we do Eagle? And you know, when I'd finished Eagle, it was like there's still more things that Eagle can do. But it was a very brief overview. I was trying to cover a lot so you knew whether you wanted to try it or not while the lifetime deal was on. And I said this week we could create some video in MediaPlace with slides. So that is what I'm going to be showing this time. There's lots of other things that I can show, but what we'll do is we'll see how it goes in terms of how many of you are going to keep with it. Oh, borrowing husbands. Borrowing husbands. That's not a bad idea, is it? Depends if they're any use or not. Oh, you're too useful to share, you know, Mike.
Am I?
Oh, yes. You know what all the white boxes are for in the kitchen and everything. Yeah. Okay, let's go and have a look at MediaPlace then. So, there's been several updates this week. Why are you opening on the wrong screen? Because you're playing with my mind. There has been several updates. The way to update the thing, it tries to update every 24 hours. If you know for a fact that there's an update because I sent an email or something and you've not got an update, just close it down and open it and it will automatically check. It will tell you there's an update and ask you if you want to update. If you say yes, and you can say no if you want to, but if you say yes, it will not only download it, it will also install it and then prompt you to restart it. So what we've got in this one, this is the demo from last week. I have added some more images. So what I've done is we had animals last week. We had a squirrel and we had some MacBites stuff, this stuff at the bottom. Now, these were only 400 by 250, so they're too small to use for slides, which is why I've re-imported them. I've also got some Premier League stuff in there. That was me playing around. Apparently, they've changed the logo. If anyone can tell me what the difference is, there'll be a reward. Apart from the fact that the background is now lime green. It kind of looks like that. That is the Premier League background. And this is the new lion. I can't see a difference, but apparently it's something with his eye. So I was playing around with that, and I also, with the show art, imported the show art. I imported everything. Everything back to episode 1. Hello World. We don't have show art for all of them, do we? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. We haven't got 6 and 7. I don't know why. But the majority of them have show art of some description. There are some favourites in here. The old Razzle Dazzle. Remember that one, Mike?
And that one.
Untethered in Timperley. The old Razzle Dazzle. If you've never heard that episode, it was MacBites 71. You need to go and listen. I had taken my mother shopping and we were stuck in traffic outside the Magistrates Court on one side and a row of shops on the other. And Mum spots this new shop. And she said, oh, look, there's a new fish and chip shop there. And there's a menu outside. What's on it? So I'm stuck in traffic. Oh, and there was something happening at the Magistrates Court, wasn't there? Because there was a load of paparazzi running all over the road. So I'm trying desperately not to hit one of them while I'm stuck in this traffic and moving slowly. And she wants me to read a menu outside this fish and chip shop. At which point, I put the handbrake on and had a look at it. It wasn't a fish and chip shop. It was a piercing parlour. It was called Fish and Tips. I'll leave the rest of it to the show, but if you've never heard it, you need to hear that one. You also need to hear Untethered in Timperley. That was when our lad went off to the bridge, and that one. It was the tale of his adventures all over the place. Right, so I've got all of these in here. What I'd like to do now is to make some kind of promotional thing for the show. I'm not going to use all of these because we'd be here all day. But this is how it works. So be these photographs or be these minor PNGs, but it works with JPEGs. But do be warned. It does not work with all file formats. So one thing you need to think about when you're making your slides is that your images are in a compatible format before you go on. Right, we know this because if we go into here, we've got some of these stuff from the Premier League is an AVIF. Do we know what an AVIF is, Mike?
AVIF.
Yeah, I know it's an image format and it's relatively new. We've got this WebP as well.
It's an open royalty-free image file format specification for storing images or image sequences compressed with AV1 in the HEIF ... That's from Wikipedia.
Fabulous. Now, if they could just make them compatible, we'd be getting somewhere. But basically, we have these images in here, and if I switch to the slide view, which is at the bottom, slides, and I click to add images, and I go into all at the top, you can see these are here. But if I scoot down to the bottom, we've got the squirrel, and we've got the small images that we downloaded from the website. We've got one Premier League image, but no others. So that told me there was a file format issue. Now it does say show all, but you can also say you can filter it for JPEGs or PNGs. But clearly when it says all, it doesn't actually mean all. It means all that are supported, and it looks like what's supported is a JPEG and a PNG. So there is that to consider. Right, the best way to do this is not to come into here and select all for the slides. The best way would be to create a folder and do it that way. So my show art is in a show art folder. So I don't really have to search for anything. I don't have to filter for anything. I've just got all of the stuff here that I want. So I'll add a few of these. So we'll have to have this week's, won't we? And that one was nice and bright. We'll have the Al Gore. We've got to have the ritual humiliation of One Take Thomas, haven't we, Mike? he's a bit,
saying nothing.
You're a bit sore about that today, aren't you? It wasn't you, it was the data. We'll have the outrageous bushing on your bike. Oh, well, I think we'll have to have the full Monty with the bot and the tractor. Let's do those. But that is how you select them. I'm holding the command key down and clicking the extra ones as I go. Once you've got the images selected that you want in this slideshow, you hit confirm selected. Let's add one more, so we've got 10. How about the Mulu? Let's have the Mulu. Right, so I've got 10 now. And what that does is it opens up a completely different interface. So on the left-hand side, you are in slides at the bottom. This area that you have here is to do with the files. This is picking the files. Then you have another area here, which is your transport controls. So you can move back to the beginning of the presentation. You can press play and it will play it. You can use this one to get to the end of it. The thumbnails track that you have there, that isn't actually showing you any thumbnail, but it's a sort of a film track. That is your playhead that you can scrub through this, right? So that is how that works. To edit an individual slide and how it works, you have the edit slide button over there. So that's what's going on at the top of that. In the middle of that here, this is your canvas area. And that is what you will see on the screen. So you've got two ways of looking at this. There's actually zooming through it up here with your transport controls and actually seeing what you would see in this area, which is your canvas. Then at the bottom of that, you have what I would call the thumbnail track, where you can actually see the thumbnails. And you can scroll backwards and forwards, left to right with that. How I'm doing that is I have a Logitech MX3 mouse, which has a wheel on the side that goes left to right. If you've got a standard mouse, I think there is a way to do it. You have to hold a shortcut key down, but I can't remember which one. Do you want to have a dabble, Mike, and work out which shortcut key it is? Or get a Logitech mouse, which is fabulous. Mike changed his mouse this week, didn't you? Because you were grumpy with it. Right, so that's what we've got going on down there. Each one of these is an individual slide. And also in here, between each slide, you have what looks like a magic button. That's the transition. So each of those is the transition between those slides. If you haven't got that mouse, you can also slide that way, but that's just tricky. So you need to work out what the shortcut key is. Right, over on the right-hand side here, you will see one set of 2 controls, which you see depends on what you've got at the top. So this that we're seeing at the moment is the settings for the entire slideshow. If we were to click slide, that would show you in a way, it's settings, either settings for the presentation or settings for a slide, of the one that has the red border around it, the one that is selected. Oh, that one's got a pink border around it, hasn't it? Why have some red and some pink? That's interesting. Right, so that's what you're seeing here. So the settings that we have here, when you've finished editing it, you will use the settings to choose the format that you want this to be output as. So at the end of the creation process for the presentation, the slides, you will end up with a video and you have 3 format choices: MP4, MOV or WebM. Now again, WebM and what's the other one?
WebP.
Yeah, WebP. They're not supported 100% everywhere. So that is something to consider. If I was doing this full quality to take into Camtasia, I would do it at 100% MOV. If I wanted it to be output from here straight to somewhere else, so I wanted to upload it to YouTube or use it somewhere, I would probably make an MP4. Having said that, it would be very much trial and error in here to get it the size that you require. So sometimes I might want to put this out when I'm making videos for support. They need to be a certain size. You had that problem, didn't you? Some support systems only take 1 file. So might try to upload file at 5 and it only took the first one. So you might need a zip file. The other problem with it was it only accepted 2 meg. So you may need to change the quality to get the size that you require for your purpose. What I would do is export as a MOV and then handle the compression in Handbrake, because I have magic sauce in Handbrake that makes tiny files but really good quality. So I wouldn't rely on trying to get it right in here, but that's just me. Your mileage may vary. Oh, Carol loves a Logitech mouse. Logitech mice are amazing. They really are. It's just, once you're used to it, you try another mouse and it's like, how do I go from left to right again? It's just not there. Okay, that's what's in those settings for format. Then you've got the quality, which is relating to which format you select and what the quality is. You can then choose a frame rate, 30 frames a second or 60 frames a second. One reason to choose 60 frames a second, even though it's not talking head video, is if you want the little red flash, you want the best red flash on YouTube, it does like 60 frames a second. You then have size that it's talking about, not the size of the file per se, but the quality of it. So is it 4K, full HD, HD, do you want it square, do you want it vertical? And so you can do all of that in here too. That will give you underneath an actual size. So if for whatever reason you wanted to change the size of that fractionally, you could do. Then you can specify a background colour. Now that won't make a jot of difference right now, because none of these images are transparent. But if any of them had any transparency, then choosing the background would mean that's the colour that you would see instead of the transparency, which it tells you in here it's only visible if you add images with transparency. Then you have the option to add some music behind your slideshow. So I have got some music, I'll be adding it. You won't hear the music, otherwise you won't hear me, but you will see it added. And I can create this video if you like and put it on a website if you want to see it. Those are all to do with the actual slideshow, the presentation, the video that you're creating. You then get a chance to give it a name at the bottom, and you can either save it. Now where it says save here, I would have expected that to save it in the folder that I was in, which at the moment is the MacBites folder. Or you can drag it to a specific folder. Yeah, neither option seemed to work. It just seemed to stick it in all files. But we'll see what happens today. Did I show you Handbrake before? Have I ever done Handbrake?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know, Kim, but I can do if you like. Right, so that's all to do with the entire presentation. But switching this to slide, and now everything that you do is in relation to an individual slide. So you get to say how long it is, the duration of it. You can change the effect. So if we look at that first one, let's take that back. You can see that that is moving in. So you can see that the effect is zoom in. It's zooming into it. So that is set on a per slide basis up here. Then you've got the text background colour, which is this bit down here. That's what it's referring to. You've got the text colour, which is here, and it's white. You can actually change the text in there. So if we put in, this is a new MacBites, you can change the text there. That's not the only way you can change the text, but it's one way. You can change the padding. So it's got a lot of padding around it. So the background is much bigger. You can then change the enter effect and the exit effect. Now you might think, just a minute, you said the effect was zoom in. Yes, this is a transition at the top. It's how we get, no, this one down here is how we get from slide 1 to slide 2. This is how we get from this slide to the next slide. And this is what happens when we're looking at this slide. So it's 3 different places for an effect. And you can choose to apply all the settings that you've got configured in here to all of the slides if you want consistency across them. Which for things like the text, you probably don't, to be honest. So let's take a look at all of that. So I'll lose that and we will go back to the beginning here. Right. So let's say with this slide, this one actually is doing okay, I think. When we play it, that is not bad at all. It zooms in a bit. We've got some text coming in at the side and then it switches to that. I'm not overly fond of the transition, but it's not bad at the beginning at least. So if we pull this back to here and edit the slide, this is where you can actually edit the slide. So you can change the position of it. So if you wanted that to move from over here and you wanted it bigger, you could do that. If you then wanted to move this text, you could do. You could have that up there. You can actually click in here to edit the text. So let's have a welcome to MacBites. Oh, MacBiters. Right, welcome to MacBites. You can change this if you want. So if you wanted that to be a different font, you could do that. We've got a comic font, haven't we? What's it called? I'm sure it's in there somewhere. Although I'm seeing fonts in here I don't think I do actually have installed. Oh, let's change it to that one and we'll have regular. And that's useful because I can't see it, but there we go. The other thing that you can do in here, you've got these points on the inside where you can change the rounding of the corners. So if you wanted it square, you drag them out. Wanted it softer, you can drag it in. You can also change with this the text alignment. So it switches between left and centre and right and back again. You can change the opacity of it. So like that. So we'll have it so you can see it. You can have a shadow on it if you want shadow on it. So at the moment, we've not got anything on that. Let's put 5% on each and see how it goes. There we go. So you can see that there. So the only thing with putting a shadow on it, it makes the whole thing look darker, but you can do it if you want. You could change the colour as well. So let's take that off. It's too dark. Right. That looks like it's still there. Come on, let's get that back to 0. Don't fail me now. There we go. Right. So we've got that up there at the top. So if we were to play this now, we would get something different. But in terms of playing, you'll see that the play buttons have disappeared. So we need to exit edit mode before we do that. So let's take that back. And you can see it's moving. It is zooming in, but it's zooming in slightly differently than it was zooming in before. All you then need to do is rinse and repeat on all the other slides. But I said to you I wasn't keen here on this transition. It's kind of like blobs. A lava lamp transition, I think. A lava lamp. Right. What we can do with that is go into here, and this is the transition. Now, there's lots of transitions. Lots of them. So, first of all, I'm going to move down, and we should see that one is highlighted, which is this one, which is melt through, and that's what's being used at the moment. So with this, you just hover over it and it gives you a preview of what that will look like. So we can change that in here. I mean, we'd know the difference with pinwheel, wouldn't we? Let's apply pinwheel and come out of it. So you can see now, if I pull that back and play it, you've just changed the transition between the slides. But you are changing just the transition. You are not changing what happens when we land on this slide. Once the transition has finished, then what is in the slide takes over here. So you can decide whether you want the text coming in from the right or the left or the rest of that. But the actual how we get from slide 1 to slide 2 is contained within the transition at this point. Now, one thing to think about with this slide that we've got is as we play it, so let's go to there and play it, the text starts to disappear off the top. And I think this one will, if it's on the screen long enough. We start to lose the Gore at the end. This one, we're starting to lose the Thomas at the bottom because we're zooming into it. Again, we're losing the text on this because we're zooming in. So unless we happen to have one where the text is bang in the middle, which most of the time it's not, you will start to lose either part of the imagery or part of the text. But you can fix that. So let's stop that and get back to this bidded out one. Right, you've seen in here that you can move this. So if you go in and edit the slide, you can choose to move this. But that's not the only thing that you can do. So in here, making sure that we are there, we've got an effect of zoom in. Now, what we could do is change that. So we could have a zoom out. So if I put that on it, you can see what's happening now is we start off zoomed in, and when we play it, it starts to zoom out rather than zoom in. So that's actually quite a nice change if you alternated those. But let's go back to this one again. So let's move back up there. Right. In here, as well as the effect, you'll zoom in, zoom out, zoom and rotate, do all kinds of things, pan left, pan right, all of these. In addition to all of those, I'm going to make that the zoom in for a reason. You also have this option next to it. So if I click on that, we get a target in the middle. And you don't want to move it when your mouse pointer is crosshairs like that. You want to hover over there so it's a pointer and you can pick it up. And what this is, we've got it set to zoom in. Where do you want to zoom into? And you can see as soon as I move that up here, you can see you won't lose the text because that is the point it will zoom into. If you were to zoom into this down here, you can see you lose all the text at the top. So being able to move the zoom in point is great. So at that point, if I move back here and we look at that again, now we're not going to lose the text as quickly, if at all. And in this case, not at all. This one will lose the text when it gets to the end. So what we could do with that is do exactly the same. We've got the zoom in on here, but if we were to change that, by default, it's in the center. But if we change it there, then we won't lose the text. So move it back and work through that. And you can see it is still zooming in. Doesn't look that different, but you are not losing the text. This one would be the other way around because we're losing that off the bottom. So it's again a zoom in, but I'm going to click on that. And instead of zooming it in to the top, this time I want to zoom in down here. And you can see even at this point, when I virtually finish the slide, we still can see the text. So let's take that back and prove that point. And there we go. So the bit that's hanging off as we zoom in is the top and not the bottom where the text is. Now this one, it's happening at the side. So we can probably afford to lose Timmy, can't we, Mike? You know my feelings on Timothy. Right, so what we could do with this one is we'll zoom in again, but we'll zoom in over here. So we don't lose the text. So maybe even a little bit further than that so we don't lose the text. And then when we play that back, we've got, I keep pressing the space bar because that's automatic to me. It's doing nothing. You need to click the button. This time we see Timothy disappear off the side, but we're not losing the text at that point. This one I haven't changed, but we don't lose the text. This one probably does need to be lowered a little. So let's bring that back over there. Hang on. And move there. Why is somebody's alarm going off, Mike? Is it just to annoy me?
I can't hear it.
You must be stone deaf. Oh, it stopped now. Now I've mentioned it, it stopped. Right, let's move that one. And don't use the space bar. There we go. So it's still zooming in. You can barely tell the difference apart from the fact that you're not losing stuff. So with this one, we need to do exactly the same. And move that one up to there. And play that. So this is bits quite manual, but I've got text on it. If it's photographs, you probably wouldn't even need to bother. Unless you've got like one of Carol's lovely birds and you want to focus in on something particular, you wouldn't need to do all of that. With the text, you probably do. Okay, now we've only changed one of these transitions. So I'm going to go back to this transition. And what have we got here? We can morph into one or a heart. I'm going to choose transitions that are really obvious. And that way you'll see the difference between them, like a hexagon blur. Don't do this for real. It would be so annoying. Let's do this one. What we got in here? Now, if there are some of these that you know, maybe you're working with a client and the client likes 2 or 3 of them. Not you again, I know. Right, that one's swapping, for instance. Let's say they like the swap. You can heart these things, favourite them. So let's say the heart and the blind. And then up here, you can toggle on for just favourites because there's so many transitions that you may need to focus on the half a dozen that you're using. The other thing is, as you're applying these, you can increase the duration of it. So I could say I want that to be 2. Right, so let's go into there and let's head off into there. We choose the blinds one on there and make that one another 2 seconds. Right, so let's take this back to the beginning and see the effect of what we've done, which is probably going to be hideous, but it's all for demonstration purposes. So we've got the spirally one, forget what that was, the wheel or something, wasn't it? Then we had the heart, and it has remembered our locations for the zoom in pointer. That was the hexagon one. What else did I go for? That was the one that was swapping out. Now, you did see in that one white in the background. So we'll go back to that. I think that one was the blinds, wasn't it? And I think then we're done. So this one here, where it swaps into Timothy, you're seeing white in the background because in the settings for the presentation up here, this was the background colour. So if you don't want it to be white, this is where you change it. That is how you would do it. So a lot of video would be black. But if we wanted it a sort of orangey colour for MacBites, we could do that in there. And then when something moves, and it moves so you can see the canvas, the colour that you would see is the MacBites colour. Okay, so far so good. One thing I will say with this is you've seen how much effort I've put into changing things. Timings, positionings, all kinds of stuff. At the moment, there is no way to save that and come back to it later. Because if I were to click away, it would say you'll lose everything. That needs to be fixed. Because if you're working on like 150 slides that you've got running in the background. So a few years ago, it would be 2019, wouldn't it, Mike? Because it was pre-COVID. I had a presentation that was running through a meal. And this meal was about 2-3 hours, 2.5 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
And this presentation was running on a big screen and it was celebrating 700 meetings, which went, was it 60 years? Yeah, it was about 60 years.
65, I think.
And I had slides for every year. The big events, the moon landings, Diana dying, stuff like that. And it was running continuously. If I had made that in here, I couldn't do it in one sitting. I could not do it in one sitting. So that is something that would need to be thought about. But at this stage, I'll press on and I will finish it and then show you what happens next. So at this point, I've done all the slide things, I've done all the settings things. I want to select some music. So it defaults to, obviously, MediaPlace, where my media would be. But I have not imported my media yet, which could itself be an issue, couldn't it? I've just thought that could be an issue. Oh dear. Because what I'd need to do is import some audio and I don't want to lose whatever I've got. So where did I put that? I put it in here. So I had some opening titles. So if I were to drag that in, you can see, where do you want it? It's one supported file, which is a WAV, a WAV file, and I want to import it. Oh, that was good. Good. Should have thought of that, shouldn't I? But let's select the music. Right, it now knows that there's one audio file in MediaPlace, so at least you can import in the background, thankfully. So I could play this and it would play it. I could just select it. So I'm just selecting it. Now, that is the opening titles for the show. So it's not that long. Is it about 10 seconds, 12 seconds, something like that? Let's find out. It is 10 seconds. And obviously the presentation is longer than that. So what this is going to do, you have a loop option in here, that if the music is shorter than the slideshow, it will loop it. So I will leave that set to on. Now, when I'm going to export this, I want something that's reasonable quality. So I'm going to choose a MOV file. I don't think I need to go 60 frames a second with this, but there's music that came with a bonus file. There is, but this isn't, I didn't import the bonus stuff into here. I imported the bonus stuff separately to see how fast it would import. And it was about 5,800 items and they came in seconds. But unfortunately, it's a different library. That'll teach me, won't it? This library is the demo one. It's got not much in it, to be honest. So what I'm going to do with this, it's telling me what my music is now. It's telling me it's going to loop. So this is the point, having decided that I want a MOV file at 30 frames a second in full HD. I've got the background set to orange. I've checked all of the slides. I've got the music on it. I've set it to 100% volume. Now I'm down here giving this a name. So let's call this MacBites Promo. Now this is where I found if I dragged it to a folder, it totally ignored me. Let's see if it still does totally ignore me. It did save it, but I would have wanted that in the MacBites folder. So what's happening at this point, it's actually creating the video file for me in the format that was selected on the right hand side. It's actually creating the entire thing. Now, I've got lots of transitions. I've got lots of high quality graphics in there. And I think the first time I did it with 5 slides, and this one's got 10 in it. So it's going to take the time it's going to take. It's going to be less than a minute. So that's probably something else you need to think about in relation to creating it. If what you wanted to do was like me with that presentation playing, and you are concerned about the size of the file, and you're concerned about the length of creating it and the fact that you can't stop halfway, you could create it in batches. And then if you've got something like Camtasia or anything, to be honest, that would let you merge videos, or you could leave them separate but play them as a playlist. You could do that. But that took probably about 40 seconds. Right, so it has been exported at that stage, I hope. Because what I'm going to do now is going to go and find it. Go and find it to see it. So let's click on the MacBites thing. In fact, I think at this point I have to go to the library, and this is when it says, right, you're going to exit slideshow editing. Are you sure you want to? Because there's no option to save it. Oh, that's not good. It's not good, but I'm going to say yes. Oh, thankfully. Right, this time it worked. Because this is, no, hang on, let's go in there. Yes, it did. It put it in the right folder this time. So you can see from this that it's an MOV, a MOV file. You can see that it's 50 seconds long, which is right. There were 5 seconds for each slide, and there were 10 slides. You can see that it's 1920 by 1080. So let's click on that, and you can see it's a huge 1 gig of a file. And that's because it was a MOV, and I wanted high quality. You can see here that this is saying that the video codec is not supported. Now, what that's talking about is a MOV file will play. I could drag that out of here and it would play. So let's put that in a local folder. Grab that, take it out of there. Right, and there is the file. So you can see that that will play, and it's pretty good quality. So what's it talking about? It's not supported. Right. a MOV file requires a codec to play from Apple. So it will play in QuickTime, it will play in VLC, it will play in Inner, which is my video app of choice, but it won't play in here. It won't give you a preview. Now, what you could do is convert it. You could convert it there, or you could convert it with Handbrake. It really doesn't matter. But that is your video, and that is what the video looks like when you have exported it. So if I were to open it in, won't it? There we go. That is it actually playing, not a preview. That is playing in a video app. And the quality that I'm getting here is pretty decent. Your mileage may vary depending on YouTube and what mood it's in tonight. And the music is playing in the background in a loop. I will just up the sound so you may be able to hear it a little bit. So hopefully you heard that while it's playing, just to prove that it is actually there. And that is how you make a slideshow inside MediaPlace, which is something that Eagle doesn't do. I don't really know whether you would want Eagle to do that. It would depend. I mean, I think it's a really handy feature to have. It's certainly faster to do that in here than it would be to go into PowerPoint or Keynote and play around with it. The other option, which is if you're doing that all of the time, then the best app for that is probably PhotoMagico. The problem with PhotoMagico is that it went subscription and it meant it was like 50 times the price. But you could take it for just a month to do your presentation, do whatever you needed to do, and then not pay for it again. I don't know how viable that would be for people, but it's an option. It's an option. So certainly, as long as the concern I have with this is that I can't save it halfway and then go back to it. That would make it positively perfect. It's a nice feature, depends if you would use it. And as Renee's saying, you're never going to use it. If you're not going to use it, then no, it's not going to be a great feature. I think what would make the feature better for me is being able to save it and return to it. But I guess what they're thinking is that it would be more for photography than a promotional video. So you would only be putting maybe times in the text, or maybe not even having the text, and that you would be working with photographs that you already had in MediaPlace. But that is what it can do. So if you wanted to do that, you could do. So it depends whether you would ever, you said you'll never use it, but... and the free stuff that came with it, there were a lot of sounds in there. And I think they were all royalty free as well. So, do we have any questions about that?
We only have one question from Mrs. Yarnold, which was, does MediaPlace create a library and duplicate all the files into it like Eagle?
Yes, it does. So, you can have multiple libraries. Where did I put my libraries? I think I put them in application support in MediaPlace. So, this is the bonus library where I imported everything. So these were my files in there. This looks very similar to Eagle. This is how Eagle organises it. That you've got the actual image and then you've got a folder that contains the meta for that, which includes a thumbnail. Isn't it funny that the thumbnail, because it's a PNG, is bigger than the actual file? So that's an SVG and that is the thumbnail, which is bigger. But that is how it works. So this level, bonus and demo, are the actual libraries. So this demo one, if we go in there, you can see there is no organisation in terms of folders in there, but if we just randomly pick one, you can see that happened to be the show art for 90. So that is the actual item in the library, and that is the thumbnail of the item in the library. So yes, it does duplicate the whole thing. I think it would be nice if either Eagle or MediaPlace gave you the option to point at a set of folders and not duplicate the stuff. That way, if you want to work with it in Lightroom or you want to work with it in Bridge, you could do. Now, Bridge does work like that. So Adobe Bridge is a different asset manager. It's free from Adobe. You do need an Adobe account, but trust me, it is totally free. I went through the hairy scary, let's download it and see if it is actually free, and it is. That does look at files where they are. It builds a cache, which is a hidden folder. You can decide whether you keep that cache or not. So what would happen with that one? If I had a set of folders, which I do in here, right? So this is my show art folder and there's my show art. If I wanted to view thumbnails of that, but not actually import them anywhere, with Adobe Bridge, I could do that. What would happen is inside this folder, there would be a hidden folder called cache, Bridge cache. You get to decide if you keep that or not. If you do, the next time you open Bridge, it will load instantly because it will load the cache first, and then it will check for any changes in the data, and then it will update the data, but it will load virtually instantly. So that is the benefit of Bridge. Bridge it has a lot of features, it really does, and it's totally free. But it doesn't support certain file types. So I mean, neither does MediaPlace at the moment. So you couldn't see your Affinity source files in Bridge. You can see Photoshop and InDesign and Illustrator, SVG, PNG, JPEGs, TIFFs. You can see all of those, but just not native files from other applications. So you won't be able to see Office files or anything like that. They'd be there, but there would just be no preview. So unfortunately, both Eagle and MediaPlace do import and create their own libraries. It would be nice if there was an option, but I can't see that happening yet. What else have we got?
Deborah says she couldn't find the bonus library anywhere to import.
It was linked from the email, and what you actually got was an MPP file, which is a MediaPlace package file. I have no idea where I put that. Let's have a look, shall we? Right, that's opened up on the other screen. So let me just put in an extension of MPP. MPP. There we go. Oh, I've got lots of these here.
She couldn't find where to download it, but like you said,
it's from the email. You get an email, and I think it's the one that gives you your password, and underneath it says download the bonus. And the bonus thing is... that's the right place to put it, isn't it? Aren't I ridiculous? Right, let's open it up. Right, I put it in there, but I didn't put it in the right folder. So it needed to go into MediaPlace down there. So this is my application support. So this is basically how I organise my stuff. In Dropbox, application support, the name of the app, and then put it in there. So you're looking in the mail, there's a pink button and it says download bonus, and then you download that. I think I imported it into the other one. So if I just switch these libraries, when I created a library for it and I opened it up, there was all the stuff in here, and that did have folders and stuff in it. I didn't create any of these. And I did scoot through all of these, and I really like them. I think some of these are really good. And the benefit of them is like the emojis. So if I go in here and search for emoji, you've got some nice emojis. I use that one today in the presentation because these are SVGs and they're scalable. Whereas when you put an emoji in, it's a font. And as you scale it up, you lose quality. You do not lose quality with these emojis. So, I mean, this is a standard emoji. These are standard emojis. So I think I'll be using the emojis in here, definitely, because I can scale them. They're a great starting point for artwork. I think we've got one poster that had a crystal ball in it. I didn't use that one for it, but that would be perfect for it. So they are great to have, trust me. That was a really nice bonus. You were looking for a graphic the other day, and I said there's two in here if you want to have a look at them. You stuck with what you had, but, you know, it's an option. So, yeah, check your email for that. And what else have we got?
Nothing, but I would like to welcome Barn Song Productions, a.k.a. Derek, to Slack.
Oh, welcome to Slack, Derek. We have fun in there. We do. Oh, Mrs. Yarnold says she drew a lot of emojis in Affinity Designer. You can get sets of them that are vector. It's just these are pretty accurate. You know, I don't want... When I see sets in vector format, they tend not to be the Apple style. They tend to be like a Google style or a third-party style. Whereas these look close enough to the emojis that I'm used to from Apple that I could get away with using them in presentations. So I'll definitely be using those. Even the hands and stuff like that, they are spot on accurate. Spot on accurate. So I'm loving those. Absolutely loving them. But yeah, you should find it in the email. If not, give them a ping and tell them that you can't find the download. I think it just downloaded. I don't think it took you to a page or anything. I think it just downloaded from where it was. I did decide to upload it for safekeeping to pCloud, which is my backup. And then I just imported it into here. But I did keep the MPP. You can see with this one, that is on Dropbox. And what I can do with that to save space is just click on it and say make online only. And what will happen here with this tick, it's now taking up 0 bytes of space on this, which saves me a gig. And if I go backwards and forwards so it updates, you can see it's just got a little cloud icon now. But I can download that whenever I need to. So that's something that I do on a weekly basis. I'm now crazy mad with this, aren't I, Mike? Making sure that I don't have too much stuff on my hard drive. Yes, because backing it up does no good. It really doesn't. Okay, so are we done with questions on that?
Looks like it.
Right, okay. So let's come out of there and go back into there. Oh, freebies. I found these freebies, downloaded them, so I'm going to show you some of them. It's 10 free PowerPoint templates. When you say templates, they're not really templates. They've got slides in them. But a template to me is where you have something and you can make new slides based on them. And it's not that kind of template. They are basically PowerPoint files with slides in them. There are 10 of them, as it says. I think 6 of them are 16:9 and the others are 4:3 ratio. So that's the URL, and this is just a selection of some of the slides that were included. So this one was the cover of the Doodle one. This was from the Doodle one. It had charts in there, stuff like that. It had one for a quote, which is sometimes you're trying to put a quote on. I don't know about you, I always end up with a black background and a quote symbol. So it's nice to see something radically different. There was one that had data charts in it. So all of these are there for you to use or edit in any kind of way. I think that was a design studio that one came from. There's all sorts of slides in there. There was a couple of agenda slides. I thought that one was nice. I can't see me using it, but it was nice. I like the colours. They did include the stock images. So these aren't something that I've put together. If there were stock images in there, they were there for you to use. So have you put the link in? You have.
I have.
Excellent. Right, so you can get those from there. Right, are you ready?
No, because I'm not pressed record.
Right, well, I've got a slide up, so this should be fun. I'm going to switch over to that while I do magic. So no, don't press escape. Don't do that, woman. Right, let's come out of there, and I'm going to try and get Mike's screen on my screen. If we don't get Mike's screen on my screen, you'll have me talking about Excel, and trust me, nobody wants that. Right, so let's get you all set up. Don't crash, don't crash. That's one of its tricks, isn't it? But it does, but it's not. It's behaving itself. So are you ready now?
I'm ready now.
Yay!
Right, shall I start?
Feel free.
Okay, what I'm going to do is give you 3 examples of creating traffic lights in Excel. Who knew that you could create traffic lights in Excel? But you can. So 3 examples going from a really simple one to a little bit more complex. See, I managed to get some data visualization in here, which should please the designers and the visual people.
Yes. Make it visual.
Make it visual, yeah. Okay, so here's a savings tracker. This one's all about trackers, by the way, this session. So at the end of the year, I want to have a certain amount of money saved up, and let's just say 10,000. So I've put that into B1. And I have a formula in B2, but I'm not going to go through formulas today, but I've got a formula in B2 to calculate the how much I'd have to put away each month. Then what I've got here is a little tracker. So I am keeping a track of what my target would be each month. So at the end of January, my savings account would need to have £833.33 in it. At the end of February, it would need to have double that, and so on and so forth. But that there is the actual. So what I'm doing at the end of each month is I'm looking in my savings account and seeing how much I've actually got. You can see here that I did have 4,600 and then I spent 600. So I went down to 4,000, but I've then managed to slightly build it up again.
You should see my credit card.
What could I have bought for 600? Couple of monitors? Who knows?
The leg
for a
pro. Yeah.
The leg and the wheel.
The wheel. You can have one wheel.
Right.
Cholton and the wheelie, not wheelers.
Yes. Yeah. So what I've done here is I've added up,
Simon's in.
Is Simon in? Simon's in time for my
that's what he says.
My Excel. There we go. Yeah. So what I've done there is just a little summary that says year-to-date actual and year-to-date target. And if I was to say, okay, at the end of August, my savings account stands at 5,000, then you can see it automatically updates B4 and it updates B5. And then am I on target? Well, no, I'm not. It's working out the difference. It's showing it as a negative. If it was a positive, it would show it as a positive. But do I really want to stare at a bunch of numbers? Probably not. Even Simon doesn't want to stare at a bunch of numbers. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to show a traffic light symbol. Now, this one is just going to be a simple traffic light symbol, just a red or a green, whether we are ahead of target or whether we are behind target. Obviously, you can see we're behind target here. So in B8, I'm going to go to Home, Conditional Formatting, and Icon Sets. And the icon set I'm going to use is this one here. So once I've done that, I'm going to go back, and I'm just realised I'm in the wrong cell, so I will undo that and go to the right cell. So I'm in B8 and do it again. Home, Conditional,
I was going blind then.
Formatting. Sorry?
Thought I was going blind then.
No, that was me in the wrong cell. That's why my video took so long to record today. Okay, so should we do that again? And I'll pick those shapes there. There we go. Now what it's done is it's shown us a green, which obviously isn't right. That should be a red because it makes certain default assumptions. So I'm going to go back into conditional formatting, go this time to manage rules and edit the rule. And what I want to do on this rule is I want to say show it. First of all, I want to change these types to numbers because we are dealing with numbers, not percentages, which is the default. And I want it to show a green when the value is greater than 0. So if the value in that cell is more than 0, then we are on target or ahead of target. Whereas if the value is less than 0, we want it to show a red. Now, what if this middle one is true? Well, I never want to show a yellow on this particular demo, so I'll say no cell icon and click OK. What I will also do, though, is just go back into Edit Rule, and there's a tick box that says Show Icon Only, and that way it'll hide the number. So we can see now that we've got a red dot. And let's say I had a windfall and I managed to save in September 10,000. That will because the iPhone 15 was late and didn't come out till October, and therefore I've got lots of cash spare.
It's much more likely to be Tesco's didn't deliver everything and gave you a refund.
Well, there's that as well. So you can see now that's changed to green. One thing I don't like about this is because I'm zoomed in so that you can actually see it, look at the quality of that image. It's really jagged and blurred. You can get up to 160, but if you start zooming in any further, it's really blurred. It doesn't work like that on Windows. It must be a Mac thing. Anyway, that is the first demo. The next demo, this is all about task lists. And what I need to do is I need to track these tasks. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that red is not started, amber is in progress, and green is complete. But the problem is that icon sets don't work with text. So what I've done is I've created a formula down column C, which generates a 1 if it's complete, a 0 if it's not started, and a 0.5 if it's in progress. And what I'll do there is select those cells, go back to conditional formatting icon sets, and I'll use a different icon set this time. They actually call it a traffic lights, so I'll use that one. But again, it's not necessarily, actually it has given us the right symbol against the right number, but sometimes it doesn't. So I always go in to the rules that I've set up with conditional formatting and edit that rule. We need to change that to number, and then the rules are going to be that it's green if it is greater than or equal to 1. Well, it'll never be greater than 1. So if it's equal to 1, it's green. And if it is amber, we want it to be less than 0 and greater than 0, which is basically if it's less than 1 but more than 0, that's going to look after the 0.5s, and red if it's 0 or less. Well, it'll never be less than 0, so what we're saying here is red if it's 0. Again, I'll show just the icon, click OK, OK again, and I'm actually going to hide column B, and that way we can just see our tasks and their statuses. Okay, just seeing if we've got any questions. It doesn't look like we have. Simon wants traffic lights. Well, they're built into Excel. You don't have to do anything special.
Yes, but you know Simon uses Google Sheets.
Well, yeah. Maybe.
Are they built into Google Sheets?
I don't know. Simon, you tell me. I have no idea.
There's something for you to find out.
Yeah, or for Simon to look up. Okay, third demo, and this is real traffic lights. What I've done here is I've actually taken the scenario from a spreadsheet that we have at work, but I've changed the names to protect the guilty. We have a team of trainers, and each trainer has a target of creating 2 videos each month. But the target is a team target. So as long as the team reach the target, it doesn't matter if they don't all create the same number. So I could create 20 videos and somebody else could create 3 videos, and as long as the team reaches the target, then we're all okay. So let's pretend that it's
the kind of thing I hated at work, that.
What?
Me doing all the work and everybody else taking all the glory. Just saying.
So let's pretend it's the end of April, and the team manager checks the progress at the end of each month and then reports back to her boss. So what I've done is I've just typed in the number of videos created by each person each month. You can see that some people have created more than their quota, some people have created less. And then I have some formulas down here which are just going to summarize that information. So 2 videos per trainer, 6 trainers, target for the year is 144. The reporting month is April. I'm having to type that in manually. And then we've got the target year to date and the actual year to date. So because there's 4 months that we've got through so far, and we have to deliver 12 a month between us, there's your 48. And if we add up those, that comes to your 42. This bit down here, that is just for information. So how am I going to create these traffic lights? Well, if I go up to Insert and I go to Icons, we have our icon panel over here. and I'm going to search for traffic lights. Why didn't that take? Try it again. Search for traffic lights. There we go. So this icon library is built into Office, and you've got about 500 odd icons, which are really cool. I'm going to select that one and click Insert. I'm just going to move it over here, make it bigger so that you can see it. The size I make it here isn't actually going to be the size of the finished one. And what I then want to do is I want to create 3 of these actually, each one with a different colour.
There was a question from Simon which looks like it relates to this. 2 comments back.
I was wondering if you could specify your own traffic light image set, that one.
Yeah.
Well, if you inserted a traffic light graphic from, say, MediaPlace or anywhere, you could probably use it. Although what I will show you, I'll show you another way. I'm going to show you a way to get the images into the cells. I'm actually doing it this way because I'm trying to keep it kind of self-contained in everything inside Excel. But yeah, there would ultimately this is actually going to be saved as an external image. So yeah, if you wanted to use an image that you'd found elsewhere, if it's a PNG or a JPEG, yeah, you could do. That would work as well. So hence you pointing out those traffic light images.
Yeah.
On MediaPlace. But yeah, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to Insert and I'm going to go to Shapes. Now logic would say select the circle, but when I did this I just found it a little bit difficult to size and position the circle bang on to fit over that. So what I ended up doing was clicking on the rectangle and then drawing over that top circle there. And once I've done that, I'm going to move that to the back by going to shape format, send backwards. So you get the same effect. It's just a rectangle. So you can see if I move that, we've got the rectangle and we've got the shape. Then I'll click on the rectangle. I'm going to call it a rectangle because it is. I'll click on the rectangle and then go to the Home tab and make that a red fill. And once I've done that, I then want to group those 2 objects together. So if I click on the rectangle and I click on sorry, I'll say it again. If I click on the traffic light and then shift click on the rectangle, that selects both of those. And I can go to graphics format, group. And then if I move these around, you can see it is now a grouped object. If I then just Command C, Command V on that twice, that will just copy and paste it. I'm using the Mac version of Excel here, obviously, but it works exactly the same on the Windows. Once I've done that, I will go to this object, click on the rectangle, drag it down to there, and change that color to amber, and do the same thing with this one. Even though it's a grouped object, you can still actually move the individual objects around. So drag that rectangle so it's covering that circle and change the color of that to green. And it's still staying. Hang on a minute, undo that.
You're lying.
No, it's because I had the rectangle selected. As long as you don't have the rectangle selected, if you move these around, the grouping does remain. What I then want to do is I then want to save each one of these as a PNG. So if I just right click and do save as picture and just stick it onto my desktop and just save that as red, and do the same thing with this one, right click, save as picture, save this one as amber, and do the same thing with this one. So Simon, yeah, and anybody, this is where you could actually use your own images because they just end up as PNGs. So I don't want to delete these 3. I don't need these anymore. Okay, so having done that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to embed the images into 3 cells. This bit is only available if you've got Office 365 and you're on the beta channel. So they haven't actually put this feature into mainstream Excel yet. So they will do, but it's not there yet. There is another way that you can embed images directly into cells, but it's very long-winded and convoluted. So I'm going for the easy option, even though it's not available to everybody at the moment. You click Insert, Pictures, Place in Cell, Picture from File. Then you can actually either select just one image or you can select them all. But the order that you select them is the order they come in. So they kind of start in that cell there and spill down, depending on how many you choose. So I'm going to pick red. Then I'm going to Command and click on amber and Command and click on green. And when I click Insert, it actually, you can see it inserts the one per cell. So we've got the red one, the amber one, and the green one. But when you actually click on those cells, all you actually see when you look at the cell content is the word picture. So you're not actually getting a pictorial representation up there, but that'll do. Once I've done that, I then need to create some names for these cells. You don't have to name your cells, but it's going to make the formula easier. So if I click on the cell with the red traffic light, go up to the name box here, type red and press enter. Again, I don't have to call it red, but it makes logical sense. So the idea of naming your cells is that we don't have to refer to them as P1, P2 and so on within the formula, which I'm going to do the formula in a minute. So I'll call that one amber and I'll call that one green. And this cell here, B16, which is going to be used to determine the colour, which colour is displayed. I'm going to call that 1% target. Okay, so basically, based what's in that cell there will determine which one of those is displayed. I then need a formula, and that formula is going to go in this cell here. So I've actually just copied that formula across from my notes to save me typing it in. But it's basically going to say that if that cell there is less than 0.8, then red. And red is not the word red. It's not putting the word red in a cell. It's picking up the contents of the cell called red. If that cell there has a number in it that's 1 or more, pick up the contents of the cell called green. Otherwise, pick up the contents of the cell called amber. I think I've actually named those cells the wrong way around. Let me just check. That's red. No, I haven't. That's amber and that's green. Okay, so
do you think I wouldn't have told you if you'd done that?
Well, they're that small. I can't see them.
Well, I can. They're fine.
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this bigger because I don't really want a tiny traffic light symbol. So I'm going to select a bunch of cells and I'm going to merge those cells. I know we say merge cells are the spawn of the devil, but in this particular case, merge cells will work because it will make those cells into a single cell and then the contents are expanded. And then the last thing I'm going to do, well, 2 things I'm going to do. I'm going to hide that column. We don't need to display it. And then let's say I go to May and I put, let's say, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. You can see that needs to be changed to May. And that's still at amber. But let's say somebody did 10 videos in May. That's still amber. There we go. What I'm doing is I'm changing those numbers to get that to 100% or more. But you notice that as soon as it is, that changes to green automatically. Let's say I was to set all of these to 1s and then copy those across. at some point, this should go red. There we go. So when that gets to under 80%, that automatically changes to red. So I think that's rather cool. Let me know in the chat what you think. It's just a different way to track what's going on. And I've done a very similar example for this week's YouTube video, which will be released on Sunday. So do we have any other questions?
You do. You had a question from Tony about PDFs.
Question from Tony about PDFs.
Yes, at the bottom.
I don't see that. It's not come through. Oh, no, it hasn't come through.
Okay, Tony's question is, he says random question.
Oh, it's come through now, yes.
Typical.
Is it possible to put a PDF in a cell? On the Mac version, I'm not sure, because on the Windows version you can do insert object, which I don't. Oh, hang on, there it is. You can insert object, but you've only got, looking at this. So hang on, if I did from file, yeah, I've never done it, Tony, but I think you could do. I'll have a play around with it and stick the answer in the chat whilst you're doing your last session. But yeah, very possibly you can do if you do insert object from file. Okay.
I was thinking you could put it on a cloud service and put a link in, as long as it's not private.
Yeah, that's an option.
Or you work for the Police Service of Northern Ireland, if you've heard the show. So you've got some lovely comments.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Yarnold.
Right, so are we good to go?
We are good to go with
okay.
with your bit.
I will switch to this while I get out of all that's on my desktop and get back to it. Okay, let's lose that. Let's do that. Let's do that. No, you're not moving now. Okay, there we go. Right, so in relation to Obsidian released a new icon in June. I wasn't particularly complimentary at the beginning, was I? But I soon warmed to it. I figured I was going to have to get used to it, so, suck it up. But when they did that, they released a way for you to customise the icons as well. What they didn't do was give you the instructions for how to use the custom icons that you've created. So I will be showing you that to you. So first of all, we need the actual icon maker. So let's drag that out. Oh, do you know what? Let's do magic beans and bring it across. Here we go. Right, Obsidian icon maker. Right, hopefully I'll find it. Here we go. So they tell you about the new icon and then explain to you that you can have it looking however you want. So they give you a few alternatives and they explain why they've done what they've done, and this is the icon. Now, you may not want this icon at all, but we're looking at Obsidian first. The same principle applies to any app that you want to work with. So how this works, you have a background colour, you have a foreground colour. You can reset it to this, which is the default, or you can randomise it. You can then choose to save to PNG, SVG, which is obviously vector, an ICO file, which is for Windows, or an ICNS file, which is for Mac. So my first thought with this was, couldn't be getting on with the dark background. So let's just have it white. Simple as that. I can then save it as a PNG. I can save it as an ICNS file. They will get downloaded to my downloads folder. That is what that looks like. There's the ICNS and there is the PNG. And you can do that with any of them. So I then went into the colours and thought, well, what if it was orange? What if we had a nice orange one for MacBites? And again, all you need to do is save it as a PNG, save it as an ICNS file. I would probably save it as an SVG as well as a PNG. So I've got a vector version, but that is how it works. Now, the next step I'm going to show you is how you change the icons on the Mac. Now, this has been a dark art for years. You used to be able to hack into packages and things. It doesn't like that too much these days. Then once we've done that, there's like, well, that's okay, but you can't do that on the iPad. Luckily, you can. So I created a range of these icons and I had them available. Where did I put them? I put them in there. So I had some alternatives in here which other people had created. So they don't even have to be. They can be something you've created in Affinity Designer. Doesn't matter. And as I say, you can do this to any of them. Any application that is on your system. And I use these. These were the ones I generated with the generator. So some of these are hideous. They're meant to be. You know, the black and white one. A green one. That one actually didn't look bad when I did it. So these are the icons that I've got. So having done that, let's scoot that back where it came from. Right, what you then need to do is go to your applications folder if you are on the Mac. And you need to find whatever application it is you're using. So in this case, it would have been Obsidian. Now, I've actually got Obsidian open, so for the sake of logic, I am going to close it. You can see that before I've done this, I have backed it up. So this is the version that I have backed up. Right, all you need to do in here is Command and I to bring up the info panel on that. You can right click on it and say Get Info, and that brings up this. Now, where it's getting that icon from, any app on the Mac, if you show the package contents, there is contents inside it, then there is resources, and you will find the ICNS file, and that is where that is getting the image from. But we would like to use a different one. So I'm going to go up here and get my custom app icons. And let's say we want to inverse that completely. We want purple background and white for the actual icon. Here is what you need to do. Double click that, open it in preview, Command and A, Command and C. You've copied it. Then you can totally close that. You click on the icon in the info window. You do need in there to see the blue border on it to make sure it's selected. So sometimes when you click on it, like I'm clicking away now and it's not actually clicking away. But just make sure the blue border is actually on there and then paste. It's as simple as that. That's it. So if we go back to the applications folder and we look at Obsidian now, so let's put this in gallery view so we can see it. There we go. That is now the icon that is in use for the application. If I were to run it in my dock, I would have that icon. So it is really simple to change it for any Mac app. Mike always laughs at me when I mention icons, but do you remember the Sublime Text icon that was absolutely hideous? I've got used to it now, but it was hideous and I used to change it. It was the one app that I changed. I would guess in here, it hasn't updated in there because Raycast has its own cache, but eventually it will. I've tried restarting the Finder and stuff, but it seems to take a little bit of time. So now if I were to open Obsidian, it would have a completely new icon. It's as simple as that. Where it starts to get a little stickier is where you're doing it on iOS. So let's switch to iOS. So I have an iPad, which is now upside down, but we'll get there. Right, let's see if you're in a mood to share. Fingers crossed. Right, looks like you are in a mood to share. Or you said you were. You're lying to me. Out loud. Oh, it's not going to connect. Oh, you will. Come on. You know you want to. Can we all send positive thoughts to the tech? It's getting there. It's on the wrong screen, but it's getting there. Right, let me get this on the right screen and then you can see it. There we go. Right. Excellent. So what I've done is I've set up just 3 apps. These are the 3 apps that you need to make this work. So for simplicity's sake, I already have transferred icons. So if we go into my photo library, I've got a whole range of icons. You can see I've got the white background one. I've got the hideous green background one. I've got the black and white version. I have the green version. We'll see some difference with that. And that's the one that I've just used on the desktop. So I've transferred those and a range of other icons. So all of these icons are 560 square at 144 dpi. They are the icons that I use when I add my demos into Notion. So I just transferred the lot over to here. So we've got some icons to play with. Right. It is really simple in here, but it's a bit of a cheat. So I've got to say Twitter. I can't say X. I've got Twitter there for a reason, because that icon is hideous. If you listen to the show, you'll know what I said about a bird leaving a little present on it. And now you can see it on the big screen. You can see it, can't you? Just looks dirty at the background. So what I'm going to do, here's my Obsidian at the bottom. Let's start with that, shall we? So I'm going to go into my shortcuts, which, although there are lots of shortcuts in here, I have no recollection of putting any of them in apart from the last one. So what I'm going to do is add a new shortcut. Now, I am no expert on shortcuts, don't claim to be. I haven't got time to fiddle, right? But it should be fairly simple to do what I want to do. She said, and now I'm looking at it, I'm not seeing it as simple at all, but we'll work on that. Right, all I need to do on here is, shall we have a look at all actions? No, that's not going to help, is it? It was listed before. Let's go down here. Not seeing it at all, but let's try. We do it up there. Right, I've got this, so this is partly what I'm looking for, but not the whole thing. So where's me run an app? It's not a script. Oh, apps, there we go. Right, let me choose an app. So let me go and find Obsidian. I'm not at all sure this is the right way around with this. The last time I did this, I did it on the phone. That's the thing with it. So let's go find it. Is this in alphabetical order? Oh, but no, it's not listed. That's not grand either. Right, I will go in here, and what I want to do is run an app. So all I want to do is run an app. Fingers crossed it'll find it for me. No, it's not. Oh, come on. This is bad. Right. I've luckily I have got one of these that I have done before. So let's go into there, see what it is. It's open. That's the thing. It's open. And it came up over here. If you look at the next suggestions on the right hand side, it says open an app. So that is all I want to do with this. I want to create a new one of these, and I want to open. So if I just say open, will you behave yourself? I would expect this somewhere down the bottom, because I just want to open an app. Crying out loud. You know when it goes well in rehearsals, Mike? It's one of those moments. Open. Should we try open app? There we go. Open app. Awesome. Right. So this is the command that you've added, and it says open. Next to it, you have the word app, and you need to go and choose an app. So in this circumstance, it's Obsidian. We're doing Obsidian first. So there is the app that I want to open. That's it. That's it for your shortcut. But when you come to share it, you want to share it by adding it to your home screen. So I'll do that. You'll notice it says new shortcut. That's not grand, is it? What I'd want that to be called is just the same name as Obsidian, and it doesn't matter that you've got an app on there called Obsidian, it should be fine. Then I tap on the icon, and I don't want to take a photo. I don't want to choose a file because I've preloaded these into the Photos app. So here are all my icons, and that one is the one that I've set it to on the desktop. So I'll say use that icon. So now we have a preview of the text that I've added. We've got a preview of the icon. That is it. I just tap add. I can then come out of the Shortcuts app, and it has actually put that on a previous page because it's not full. But now at the bottom, I've got the Obsidian app sitting between Things and Notion, but I've got the one with the new icon at the top. So I could actually move this one off there and replace it with that one, and now I have a custom icon. There is only one caveat on this. This, when I tap it, will run it. There it is. So it will actually run it. Usually it puts up a message. I don't know if it's because it's in DND, it's not. But it's that simple to make it work. So what that means is this X one here, can't get used to it. Much prefer the Twitter thing. If I go back into here, you'll see I've got another one of these, which is this Twitter one here. And this is here because I created it on my iPhone, so it's synchronized. Again, there's one command, open an app. Which app? Twitter. That's it. But it's not on my home screen here. So if I use the tab to add it to my home screen, it's called Twitter, so it's got that. On my iPhone, it has the bird. But on here, you get to choose a new icon if you want. So I'm going to tap on there and again choose a photo, because in here I've got two birds. I've got the blue bird on a white background and I've got the white bird on a blue background. So let's go for that one, because that was the icon for Twitter prior to him losing his mind. So I'm going to tap use on that. It's called Twitter. You can call it what you like. You can call it old bird if you want. It doesn't matter, because that is totally independent from what's happening in the shortcuts in the background, which is just open me an app. And which app? X. So I'll add that and I'll come out of the shortcuts app. It's added it one page back, but I am doing my demo on this one, so I'll add it there. And now, while that is, let's not move it, while that is the X app, I can open that app with a Twitter icon, with it called Twitter. So all I need to do is tap it. Now you see at the top that you get a tiny message. It's always dangerous going into Twitter live, isn't it? Especially when you see that there are 151,000 posts about Cristiano Ronaldo. It's all right, he's not been up to mischief yet. So this here is the app. The only caveat is, as I mentioned, when you tap it, if you look at the very top of the screen in the middle, there's a little notification to tell you that it was run from a shortcut. But either way, you can call an app whatever you like, and you can have whatever icon you like. Now, if you're being kind to yourself, maybe it makes sense to you that the Obsidian icon is purple. Maybe it makes sense to you that, the Twitter icon is blue. But just think of the fun you could have with somebody else's iPad. So you could have any of these with any icon. So if we take another example of Twitter or whatever, right, we've got a new shortcut there. Let's go and edit that one. Oh, it's getting itself giddy, isn't it? Right, let's do another one. Right, so I want to open an app, so we'll just add that. What app? Doesn't matter, but, we'll make it X because we can. We can do whatever we like. So there's X. And again, I'm just going to export that to the home screen, which will enable us to give it a title. So this could be, shall I call it Old Bird, or would I get myself into trouble?
Call it Old Bird.
Old Bird, there you go. Old Bird. I wonder if I've got an icon with a different bird in, but the Old Bird. Right, I'm going to tap on the icon, choose a photo. No, hang on, what are you doing? No. We need to come out. Oh, what are you doing? I'm going to have to stop this. Crying out loud. Right, let's start that again. There's my shortcut. That was not what I wanted to do, was it, with my camera? Right, I need to send it to the home screen. Now I've lost my Old Bird. That's retribution, that, for calling it Old Bird. Right, Old Bird, right. And then I'm going to choose a photo. There, right. I haven't particularly got one with Old Bird, but I could call this whatever I wanted. I can choose whichever icon I want. This is where you could totally confuse somebody with it. I do actually have a bird, which is the Amadine icon. So let's have that and use that, and then tap Add. And then we have a new icon there. So let's get that on that page. But when I tap it, it just opens Twitter. And that is how you do it on an iPad. So you could, I had this problem, I have no idea where this came from, but I actually had two X icons, two what looked like apps. And I thought, if I delete one of these, bad things are going to happen. But then I realised one of them must have been a shortcut or something, and I was able to delete it. So if I decided to delete the Old Bird one, you'll notice you're not deleting an app, it's telling you that it's a bookmark. And you can just delete it like that. That does not delete in here the Old Bird app, which I'll rename it there and call that Old Bird. It's not deleting the shortcut that you've made. So if we go back to it, not only does it not delete it, but it will synchronize that with all of your other synchronizing devices. It's just that you've not exported it. I did export it and then I deleted it. So you can keep those on every device you've got, but only deploy them where you actually want them deployed if that's what you want to do with it. So to get rid of that ugly X icon and get it back to Twitter, that's grand. But also, Obsidian have given you the ability to make the icons, but then they didn't take it that extra step to tell you how to change it. But that is how you change it. So you can see at the bottom between Things and Notion, I now have a lovely purple icon, and that is how you do it. You do still need the app installed, so Obsidian is also at the top. But you know that you've got your library, that you don't actually have to have every app now on a page. You could just leave it in the library, and that way you would never need to see it. So guess what? That's where X is going. Bye-bye X, and we'll go back to calling it Twitter. That is what I will do with it. So do we have any questions on that?
No questions at all.
Oh, Mrs. Arnold says, what would Elon say? Elon has too much to say, if you ask me. Okay, let's put that down. Let's come out of there. Right, stop mirroring, off we toddle. Right, and get back into here. Okay, what have we got coming up? Oh, I can't believe it's September next week, but by next Friday, we should have the date for the Great iPhone event. Also known as the Raiding Renee's Wallet event, because he's already saying he's having one. He's not even seen it yet, and he's having one. That should be around, did we say the 13th? The 11th?
12th, 13th, I think, yeah.
Something like that. We might know by next week, so don't miss it. Right, everything we do is available on demand. You will find that at youtube.com/Elaine Giles. There is, of course, the famed After Hours playlist. I generally pay attention to the stats for the last month. But I looked back at the stats, didn't I, Mike? I'm like, what happened? Our Christmas show seems to have gone viral. We've had over 100,000 views of our Christmas show. So looking forward to this Christmas's show then. Right, our After Hours playlist, you can get to it directly at macbites.co.uk/After Hours playlist. And of course, we love you guys. If you have loved us, you have loved the show, you have found anything interesting, do give us a like. It really does make a difference with YouTube, whose algorithm is strange, isn't it? Very strange. You could also subscribe and hit the notification bell, and that way you'll be notified when we're live. I do keep threatening to send an email, don't I? Joe, it's about 3 weeks late. It was all about what happened in July, so I need to get it out the door this week, definitely. So you can catch up with what I'm up to at elainegiles.com/VIP. There is also the MacBites mail. Now, the MacBites mail is where you will be invited to the MacBites Live covering the Apple event. So you need that one. And also, that's our great Advent promotion in December. So you need to be raring up for that as well. So that's macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail. And Slack is where we hang out between shows. It's where we carry on the conversation. That jumped. So if you want to join and you are not already a member, go to macbites.co.uk/join Slack. If you are already a member, you can always get there directly at macbites.co.uk/Slack. So it's not join Slack, it is /Slack. And that will take you straight there. Right, I need to move that. That's what I need to do. Right, so do you have any other questions? Is there anything else you want to see or hear or ask about? Oh, you were thinking about changing icons. It was a bit over the top, and then you mentioned X. Exactly. That one needs to go. It really does. To be honest, there aren't many apps that I find the icon offensive. I don't dislike anymore the Obsidian one. I just find it being on a black background really strange because the original icon was on a white background. So I think to change the background, you can't really change it much more than going from white to black. I still do a double take every time I see it, but I have left it alone. Oh, Mrs. Yarnold is interested in Pixelmator. Now, is that Pixelmator Classic or the new Pro version? There are two versions. I think they're basically fading away. Pixelmator, was it 2 or 3? So if it's Pixelmator Pro, yes, there's some really nice features in that. And they were really ahead of themselves with AI, because they had AI in it, machine learning, years ago. Must be easy 5-6 years ago. You like to export to Apple Motion. Yeah, I haven't used that in a while. I did have all of those installed at one point. I've simplified. I've definitely simplified. Why did he change the name to X? He's obsessed with X, Kim. And he wants Twitter to be more than just a messaging platform. He's actually said he wants it to be known as X, the everything app. The idea is it's something to do, is it China or Japan that have got an app like that? And it does money transfers and all kinds of things, and that's what he wants.
Sesame Street, brought to you by the letter X.
I think he's lost his tiny mind, but there are no words, really. Because the thing is, you know, I know everybody does that. TikTok started the vertical video craze, and then YouTube decided they were going to have shorts, and Instagram decided they were going to have reels, and then before you know it, somebody else has got something else, you know, and I get that. But Twitter is unique. Twitter really, really is unique in the way that it's been around for a long time. And I don't know how it's still there, given the stuff he's done with it, but it's still there. So I don't know why he wants this everything app. I guess money. And I guess instead of starting it from scratch, he wanted to buy Twitter, so he was buying an audience. But who knows? Will he do it? I honestly don't know. Good night to you, Tony. Glad to have you with us. Pixelmator Pro, you export to Photoshop and import to Motion, but Pixelmator looks easier. What does everyone else use it for? It's got some really nice features if you want like automated work with the machine learning in it. It also has some fantastic templates that are easy to use. They're the best templates I've ever seen. So yes, we can definitely have a look at that. Simon says the X platform's going to go the same way as one of these rockets. They said spontaneously disassembled. I think it will in the end, because he does something and people are like, I'm leaving. And, you know, a couple of weeks later, they're still there. And then he does something else and it's like, right, this time I really mean it. This time I'm off. But people keep going back because, you know, if you ever read any story in the news, the quote will be, as so-and-so said on Twitter, or as so-and-so said on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. I've never heard anybody say Instagram or TikTok. It's as though if you want to get something out in public, it goes on Twitter and that's that. But I honestly don't know. I mean, he gets himself into so many scrapes. I was really looking forward, you know, to that scrap he was supposed to be having with Zuckerberg. And then they both backed out. And I thought, oh, come on. Yeah, I was just warming up to this idea. Mrs. Journal said, MacBites makes me spend and spend. Well, at least it's 30% off Pixelmator Pro if you need it. I always buy it if they're on sale and I think I might have a use for it, then that's when I tend to buy it. Pixelmator, I bought back when Pixelmator Pro very first came out and they haven't charged for an update since. Because I was making courses in it. So I actually have 2 courses on Pixelmator, the old version, the original Pixelmator Classic. I think they're both free as well. I'll get the links. Remind me, Mike, put the links in for that next week. It's as old as the hills now, and that version has been greatly updated. But yeah, there's 2 courses out there that I did. Right, do we have anything else? What's this? 1999 in November. What's this? Is this Pixelmator Pro or MediaPlace? I wondered if MediaPlace would put like a special Black Friday deal on. You know, like maybe stick an extra tenner on it, but make it a lifetime deal. I don't know. Oh, Renee, I buy stuff I don't even think I have a use for. That reminds me of Mikey B. Do you remember I mentioned?
I was just going to say Mikey B when I read that comment.
Yeah, it's just so Mikey B. Mikey B was our third co-host on MacBites when we very first started. I think he lasted for 6 shows, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he had a Circus Ponies notebook. And he'd bought it because it was pretty. And he said, I really need to find a use for that. And it surprised me because I thought, that's a really useful app. What do you mean, find a use for it? Sadly, it's RIP. It went away a long, long time ago.
I could say the same about several apps I've got installed.
Well, I did say to you with MediaPlace, didn't I? Buy it now while there's a lifetime deal and be done with it.
Well, I've got it. It's there.
It's there, should you need it. Well, there's all those icons for a start. It saves you drawing them,
the
doesn't
bonus
it?
pack.
Yeah. So you should set up a database and import the bonus pack and start from there.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Arnold.
Oh, you see, they all liked your pretty icons. I don't think it's obvious that you can do stuff like that.
I've appealed to the designer tonight.
Yes. So I said you need spreadsheets that are pretty, and they want to know how to prettify them. But you don't normally see stuff like that, do you?
No.
I see Excel demos. It's like 2 inches square in the top left corner, and I can't see a thing. And it's all highly technical, and I'm sure it's really exciting if you're an Excel geek. But an average user wants to see traffic lights in multiple cells. That's what they want. So give them what they want, Mike. X is the middle letter of toxic. Oh, he is. I find him repugnant, and his ideas. I mean, that you can't block somebody. You should have the right to block somebody, and he's going to take that away. But, when he was fact-checked by his own fact-checker, there's just no words, is there? So he tweeted out, and then the Twitter fact-checker said he can't do this. Oh, you're off to buy apps. Excellent, Renee. We got some vouchers, didn't we, last year when they were on sale? And we kept them, quite a stack of them, to be honest. Then they were divvied up. I think I've got £690 on my account, and I think you've got about 300 and odd, haven't you?
Something like that.
Yeah. Well, you're saving money, aren't you? And then it's just there ready. And then do you know what happens? Every couple of months, some subscription renews. Today, my day one subscription renewed, and I don't have to think, is the credit card all right on that or whatever. It just keeps coming off the total. So have fun with it, Renee. What have you got anything in mind? And is this for iOS, iPad OS, or the Mac? Ooh, what would I buy if I was buying something? I don't think there's anything left for me to buy, is there? What's out there that I've talked about that I haven't actually bought? I'm not sure there's a thing. I'm sure something will come to me. Yes, but we're all interested in what Renee's buying with his birthday money now. So next, Debbie, it's going to be you. Did you get any birthday money, and are you spending it? Something AI-ish. Ooh. Tell you what, ChatGPT is pretty good. We've been working with that on during our coding, haven't we?
Yeah.
And we got the API key working and everything. And that is pretty good. I have heard very good things about Midjourney. So fingers crossed on that. Mrs. Arnold is still wanting to go for Things 3 for iPad. You've done well without it so far. What I would say with Things is they don't bring out updates often. It's a flat fee, but it's a flat fee per device. So you have one version for the iPhone, another version for the iPad, and a third version for the desktop. So if you buy it as soon as it comes out, you're going to get a good few years out of it. I think Things 3 came out over 5 years ago now. And I keep thinking, when are they going to update this? When are they going to update this? And it's been years. So obviously, with it not being subscription, you've had a good deal if you've bought it. But I do wonder where the cutoff will be if they ever do come around and think about Things 4. There is literally not a sound about it at the moment. For me, I used to use OmniFocus, but I think I spent far too long triaging it. It's very, very capable, but possibly too capable. You've got too many options in there. So I binned that, and I decided I would go really simple. And what I did was I started to use Things just on the desktop, and all I was using was the fast add, so the little window that pops up. And it was just, if I've got a random note, goes in there, and that's it. That was all I used it for. And then gradually I added stuff to it, because I found if you went to it and you tried to set it up wholesale, you try and set everything up, it's just too overwhelming. So I decided I would keep it simple and then add things in as I went. And I have stuck with that for 2 years now, and it works. So yeah, but to be honest, Things isn't that different than Microsoft To Do, because Microsoft To Do was based on Wunderlist, which was good. Things is a to-do app, Renee. It's sort of related to the GTD methodology, getting stuff done. But if you wanted to share stuff with other people, Microsoft To Do is actually more powerful. But if your To Do stuff is for yourself and you're never going to share anything, then things probably edges it. But in terms of functionality, we actually did a project, didn't we, in To Do?
We did.
And it was something where there were jobs and these jobs needed to be shared. And it did. It worked really well. Really well. I don't think there is a pro version now, is there? I think it was Wunderlist when we did that.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and then it went to Microsoft. And you do need a Microsoft account to use it and stuff. But, if you don't want to invest in things, because to get all 3 versions, I mean, you're only missing one if you've already got 2. Which one's missing? If you were thinking of buying all 3, I would suggest that you tried Microsoft To Do first. Just to see if you get on with it. If you then decide that yes, and you want the extra power of things, at least you've got a proof of concept. Because to be honest, they are so similar. The power features for an individual user are probably not there in Microsoft To Do. But if you're sharing tasks, then they are. Renee likes other people to do stuff. Then it's Microsoft To Do for you, Renee, and you can delegate tasks. Now, you see, I'm totally the opposite. Because if I do it, I know it's right. If I leave it to somebody else, unless it's stuff that you're good at, Mike. Like all those white boxes in the kitchen that confuse me. Things like that. Each to their own, each to their own. If the internet goes down, who do you call?
Ghostbusters.
No, you call me. What else was there? There was To Do, and there was another one that wasn't bad. One that a lot of people use is called Todoist, but that is, I think, $36 a year, something like that. And I think there is an app, but there's an online element to it as well. Oh, Mrs. Arnold said, the struggle is I really like Obsidian for so many things, but still use OneNote for so many things. Oh, Renee is Brian. Did you call him Brian because of Brian the Snail? Because Brian was slow in your demo. Kim said that Brian was a slacker.
Oh, yeah, sorry. No, yes. I just made up some random names.
OneNote. If it makes sense to have it in OneNote, then put it in OneNote. Don't forget that you can access OneNote in a browser, which means that you can get a link to the page and then put that link in Obsidian. So that's one way to link out from Obsidian to other content. I think I'm religiously obsessive about my Obsidian. It is my happy place. It really is. So I don't put graphics in there. I don't put PDFs in there. Nothing else gets in there. I would type stuff up. And that way it's personal and it's actually much more useful to me. White boxes, is that the stove? Well.
So, fridge.
There was a dishwasher at some point. There was a washer and a dryer. And the thing was, they were all lined up. So before we had the extension built, we had a conservatory on the back of the house. And we had the washer, the dryer, the dishwasher, and there was something else in there. There was 4 of them, wasn't there? Anyway, Mum had them all lined up. And I was making the joke like, well, they're always the same. These are like, which is which and what does what? And Mum was like, yeah, don't put the clothes in the dishwasher. Or more importantly, don't put the dishes in the washer. So, yeah, I'm not good with stuff like that. We've got 2 fridges. We've got 2 ovens now as well. 2 microwaves. And a partridge in a pear tree. No, we got 2 ring hobs as well, haven't we? Yeah. Well, Mike goes in there, takes stuff that the Tesco delivery delivers, and makes magic out of it. That's what he does. Oh, don't forget the milk. I remember that one. I think we tried that.
It was Remember the Milk.
Remember the Milk. I would have forgotten the name, but there you go. What else did I use? That other one's coming back, isn't it? Was it Clear? The rainbow thing. It's all like colour coded and it goes from like red hot tasks down to cool tasks. But I couldn't get on with that because it was too basic. I don't think it had projects. Right, Sam says, could Scrivener replace OneNote? It could in terms of structure because you've got the binder on the left-hand side. And I have seen people that do that with Scrivener. because the output's great. You've got compile options and you can compile to all kinds of things. So, for instance, the show notes are in Scrivener that we have. So at showtime, when I'm trying to publish the show, I export them as Markdown. Once they're in Markdown format, I can put them anywhere. So the compile stuff's great. What I would say is it depends how you use OneNote, because OneNote has this unlimited canvas and you can draw on it. So it really does depend how you actually use OneNote. I'm always interested with, are you thinking that Scrivener is better for you, or are you thinking the features are better in Scrivener, or is there something wrong with OneNote? I mean, my problem with OneNote was it had sync issues on the Mac. I moved to OneNote when the Mac client came out and loved it. But the more I put in it and the more notebooks I had, the more annoying it was when it couldn't sync. You know, it either didn't sync at all or it didn't fully sync. And then I'm never sure whether what I'm looking at. Am I seeing everything I should be seeing? But OneNote, I mean, it's certainly capable, and Scrivener is certainly capable. You could organise with keynotes in Scrivener with keywords. You could colour code stuff. You could track stuff. There's a lot that you could do in Scrivener. So it depends how you use OneNote. Renee's got a magic basket. You throw in dirty clothing and it's clean in the closet the next day. Do you mean Mrs. Renee? His magic. Oh my. Oh, flapjack. I think it's time we had some flapjack, don't you? Yes, I think you should do that for the autumn. But you see, we're on holiday. So anything could happen this week. Mind you, it won't, will it? Depending on Tesco. I mean, it's £2 of oats too much for them to deliver. Is it too heavy for their little lamb faces? Right, Sam says, watched Affinity Master Pages tutorial. You mentioned Scrivener, it got you thinking. Yeah, I would say try it. Try it. Run it alongside it for either a few weeks, or I would say you'd need at least 3 to 4 weeks to see if it's possible, because what might work on day one might annoy you by week 4. Or you could try it for just a specific project. So I was using Rome Research, which is quite similar in concept to Obsidian, in terms of, not that it's an outliner, but that it's a networked thinking app. And the problem with it was, I had the same problem with Rome Research as I had with Notion, which is you've got to have an internet connection. And Notion was down more than it was up, and Rome was down more than it was up. And I thought, I can't be doing with this. So I thought, what I'll do is I'll try Obsidian for one cohort of an online course. I did not intend to be using the daily pages and putting stuff on there. I thought I'll use it just for this course and see if it can be done. And honestly, within a couple of days, I'm like, this is perfect. This is totally perfect. I was synchronizing initially with iCloud, which synchronizes when it feels like it. So I binned that and I pay for Obsidian Sync. But for me, it's the right app for me. But the right app for somebody else could be totally different, because you're doing different things with it. And, you know, if you particularly want graphics in there all day, every day, and to have your PDFs in the same place, then you could do that with Obsidian, but that's not what I'm doing with Obsidian. So I will compromise in terms of, I will put my PDFs, if they're not like receipts or something with credit card information on, I will put them in Zite and I will link to them, and the same with images. But that's what works for me. Scrivener, though, is more than capable. I mean, the stuff that I do with Scrivener, all the mails that come out to you are written in Scrivener. And what happens is at compile time, I literally push a button and an email pops out. And I put it in Notion or put it in a folder. Mike picks it up, copy, paste, done. There is no formatting required. The buttons, the links, everything comes out of there. At the same time as I can do that, I can create outlines. I can create detailed outlines. What else have I done with it? There was one company that I did a course for, and they wanted a text-based markdown file in a specific format, handcrafting. And I looked at it and I thought, no, we'll be doing that with Scrivener. And, it might take me an hour to put the compile together, but then that's there. And every time I compile out of it, I'm using the same settings and I don't have to reset anything up. So I do put a lot of stuff in Scrivener. I actually wrote, about, was it 6-8 weeks ago when I did that Scrivener for course creators? I wrote this book at the weekend. It had about 30 odd pages in it, something like that. And I wrote the whole thing in Scrivener, where I was dragging it about, reorganising the binder, the lot. The end point was to create a Word file from it and import the Word file into Affinity Publisher. And it didn't need much. All the styles came with it, the lot. So all I needed to do was just look at it and like tweak the layout slightly. But that way I can always go back to Scrivener and update it and stuff and then export it again and not need to do anything. So you're quite right. I do a lot with Scrivener and it might work perfectly for you. Give it a go and let us know how you get on. Right, Mrs. Yarnell's worried that everything's in OneNote and you struggle to get it out if it changes. Syncs always work great for you. Search is fab, tags the Braille. If it works for you, I will say OneNote has been around. OneNote was the last app that Bill Gates wrote. So it was him that was involved in OneNote. And what he wanted was something that was better than Word for taking notes. And it came out, I think it was 2001. So it's been around for 22 years. And it is sort of a loss leader for Microsoft. It's free. And when I say a loss leader, they really push it into schools. They have dedicated I guess you'd say templates or work systems for schools. So you can have a teacher who's got a notebook and then they're sharing certain sections of it with each child. So the children don't have access to each other's work, but she has access to all of their work. It's amazing when you see it. So I don't honestly see OneNote going anywhere that fast. It's up to you to decide what sort of stuff you put in there and what would be better if it was text. Simon says, OmniFocus grew out of an interesting homebrew Apple script. It did. And I used that. Oh, what was it called? Something script. It wasn't Omni. They didn't have Omni in it. But yes, Kinkless GTD. That was where it came from. It was a set of Apple scripts called Kinkless GTD. And it ran on top of Omni Outliner. It was clunky in the extreme, but it worked. The problem with it was, it was a relief when someone else took it over. Yeah, they did take that. They took him on, I think, and he did a couple of posts about it, about being taken on to do it. It's a great app, and I could probably use it now. I think the thing is, it just does that much that you keep thinking, I'll just improve my system, And with things, it's like, I don't care. Let's just put the stuff in and get it done. So maybe I've changed my outlook, and do you know what'll happen? OmniFocus 4 will come out and I'll want it. But it's probably going to be subscription, so I doubt I'll get it. I'll just stick with what I've got. We'll see what happens with things 4. Affinity Master Pages tutorial changed my life. Master Pages are where it's at. I'll be doing some work on that this week. You probably should move to Obsidian. Sync's the most important. I would say with Sync, Sync can be free and accurate. Here's the skinny on the sync of it. Right, you can synchronize Obsidian with any cloud. You can synchronize it with iCloud. You can synchronize it with Dropbox or OneDrive or pCloud or any of the others. As long as you do not want to have access on an iPhone or an iPad. Because the only 2 sync services that are supported on an iPhone or an iPad are iCloud. And if you have great luck with iCloud, I know Renee said you've had great luck with it. I just didn't. It did work for 2 weeks. But the more I added into it, the slower it got, and then it started not syncing at all. That was when I moved to Obsidian Sync. Now, Obsidian Sync is, I think it's £8 something a month. But you can synchronize up to 5 or 6 different databases, and they don't have to be yours. So Mike has Obsidian Sync and I have Obsidian Sync, but it's on the same account. It's on my syncing account. And I know other people who sync the whole families on it. So I think there's the guy who's the expert in Obsidian, and he syncs his sisters and his mum and dad's with it. So the whole family sync on one sync account. It just depends on the app. You know, for me, it's worth it. I remember saying to Mike, I know it's another subscription, but this is the app. This is the app for me. I can't be doing without it. And I'm not paying anything for the app. So I also look at it as a lovely way to support them in what they're doing, because there is an ongoing cost for sync. I don't expect that to be free. The app itself, they could charge for the app, but they choose not to. So I'm more than happy to pay for sync. Right, what else have we got on here? You're very welcome, Sam. Do let us know. You're installing MS To Do as you speak for iPad. It is very similar, and it's also quite customizable. And I would say it's more customizable than Things. So you can have different colors for different lists. There's a Today view. It is very, very similar, and you know, it's completely free. It does hang off your Microsoft ID though. But if you would like to get Mrs. Renee involved and give her own little colours, you could delegate tasks like the washing. Good luck with that. But you could if you want to. You could. Right, we got any more questions? Or is that it?
That's it by the look of it.
Oh, I'm thinking ice cream to start the holiday, Mike. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that, couldn't we? We could. Right, okay then. So I will say good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.